sound for everyone. You can understand everything's to share. Let your spirit dance, brothers everywhere. Let your head be free, turn the wisdom key. Take it naturally, say you're lucky to be. Sing it now, turn around and round and round. Told me, baby, if there's something on your back, let it down.
Let it down, let it down, let it down.
You know it could be, baby, that you're not my time, this whole town.
This whole town, this whole town, this whole town.
Oh, sing it now, spin around and round and round. Oh, do it, come.
So Tara, we are so happy to be here at this amazing event. Are you ready to experience some artistic inspiration with us? We are the Three Painters, so feel free to sing and clap along.
Yeah. Get ready. Huh. Get ready. Huh. Get ready. Oh. You sing it out. Time for you to all get down. Now do it, come on. This feeling inside my bones, it goes electric wavy when I turn it on. All through the city, all through my home, we're flying up no ceiling, we up in my zone.
I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet, feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. I can't take my eyes up off it, moving so phenomenally. You unlock the way we rock it, so don't stop.
And under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well you already know.
So just imagine,
just imagine, just imagine.
Nothing I can see but you. Dance, dance, dance. Good, good creeping up on you. So just dance, dance, dance. All those things I shouldn't do when you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing.
It's not the feeling.
Just dance, dance, dance.
It's not the feeling.
So just dance, dance, dance. Ooh.
It's so magical. It's in the air, it's in my bones, it's rushing on.
Rushing on.
Don't need no reason, don't need control.
Be control.
We're flying up no ceiling when you in your zone.
I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet, feel that hot blood in my body when it drops. I can't take my eyes up off it, moving so phenomenally. You unlock the way we rock it, so don't stop.
And under the lights when everything goes, nowhere to hide when I'm pulling you close. When we move, well you already know. Just imagine, just imagine, just imagine.
Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Good, good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on. All those things I shouldn't do when you dance, dance, dance. Ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing.
It's not the feeling.
Just dance, dance, dance.
It's not the feeling.
Just dance, dance, dance.
It's not the feeling.
Just dance, dance, dance.
It's not the feeling.
Keep dancing. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Lindsay with Old Blue Eyes.
It's a beautiful day.
Sky goes, you feel like it's a beautiful day. To let it get away. Jeff with Bono. vine, swing my heart across the line. In my face is flashing signs, seek it out and you shall find. Oh, but I'm not that old, young, but I'm not that bold. I don't think the world is sold, I'm just doing what we're told. I feel something so wrong, doing the right thing. I feel something so wrong, doing the right thing. I could lie, but everything that kills me makes me feel alive.
Sweetheart. We had 3 beautiful children. Everything was going as planned. I had just left to take my nieces and my kids to a birthday party. And when I got home, TJ was laying on the floor in our bedroom. It was a massive brain hemorrhage, and he was probably already gone when I got home. I knew that everything was going to be okay, but that everything was going to change. I don't know what I would have done without running elevation in the morning. I would just put my diffuser right underneath where I would put my makeup on or do my hair in the morning. And oils go really well with prayer too, but I would just really take a deep breath and say a prayer and just talk myself into doing every day, because I had to keep going for my kids. I had to get up and get them to school, and there was no pause as a single mom at 38 years old to get to time out and have some grieving time. There was no rest. I always knew doTERRA would be something great for my life and for a business opportunity that I was interested in, but I didn't know that it was literally going to be the thing that was going to save me. I had just hit silver 2 weeks before he died, so I had this community of people that I wasn't even expecting, and just saw that master plan yet again. When my friend that told me about doTERRA got to the funeral, I just thanked her again, because I don't know what I would have done without those little brown bottles. Up until 38, my life had gone how I wanted it to, and when it derailed, it completely derailed. But now going forward, there's just peace that all that was provided through doTERRA, that my kids still have their foundation of faith, and that they can see me kind of overcoming and keep going. I think that now there is peace, that even when everything falls apart, there's a bigger plan being worked out. I just feel with doTERRA, you just have tools where you didn't have tools before. So there were tools for the grieving process, but also just supporting your body's needs just at a foundational level, and not wandering aimlessly, but really having a target of where you were headed, to know that you were saved from something, but that also you have an answer for other people.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage doTERRA founding executive, chief medical officer, and chairman of the medical advisory board, Dr. David Hill.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? It's exciting to be with you this morning, and I'm really excited for today. Did you enjoy the paintings and the artwork and the excitement this morning?
So something you probably didn't know about that was not all of the paintings, but those in particular that were done towards the end. Those were actual paintings of a lot of our growers that participate with us in our sourcing operations around the world. And those are going to be available for auction. And all that proceeds will go to the Healing Hands Foundation. So if you have an interest in one of those, that would be a great and a wonderful thing to do. Now, we have a lot to accomplish today, and so I'm going to be really quick about some of these things. Are you enjoying the new oils that you learned about yesterday? You know, I know Mark Wolfert's in the room, so I'll ask him to cover his ears for a moment. I can't help it. I've been receiving a lot of different texts since yesterday about individuals using the essential oils, and I just want to share one with you. It says, I used Kabaiba on my shoulders last night, slept in my bed, first time in 4 months, all night. God bless you, my friend. Wonderful, wonderful activity already happening with the essential oils. Now, today's a special day for 2 reasons. One, are you ready for some science? You're going to have an entire day of science. But 2, it's a special day for one of our beloved owners and one of my beloved partners, Emily Wright. Is Emily here this morning? If she is, she's probably not going to stand, but we're going to do it anyway. It's Emily's birthday today. Now, I promised her that I would not share with everybody that she's 55, so don't hold her, you know, in too much guile for being so old and ancient. Can we just, I don't know if she's even in the room, but it doesn't matter. Can we sing happy birthday to her? Is that all right? All right. Now, this is not going to be as good as what it was a few moments ago with the performers on stage, but we'll do our best. You ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Emily. Happy birthday to you. And we'll never sing happy birthday to Emily again for being late. That's just the way it's going to work. Well, let me take a minute here just real quickly now and introduce to you what's going to happen throughout the morning. Now, I get really excited about the science. I remember a time in doTERRA where it was actually thought and where we said, we're not so sure that people are going to enjoy the science that much. Maybe they have a limited tolerance for it. But now we've kind of grown into where that's a very expected and a real part of what we're going to do. And I'm excited today because we have several of our scientific partners and researchers who are here with you to share some of their great information. Now we're going to start the day by hearing from Jennifer Edens. Jennifer is a microbiologist and for many years now has been studying the essential oils, and her, along with our own Nicole Stevens, is going to talk with you a lot about On Guard and some of the value that we're now seeing with On Guard. We also, one of the very first relationships that we ever started in doTERRA was with Vanderbilt University. And so we have Julie Reynolds here with us today from Vanderbilt, whom is going to share some of the genesis of Vanderbilt and the progression that's been happening now at Vanderbilt for many years. So we'll be excited to hear from her. And then we also have Dr. Rena Szabo with us this morning. Now, Dr. Szabo works at a top 5 hospital throughout the United States. We're sometimes very sensitive to some of our partners, and so we'll just leave it at that. But she's been doing some very compelling research, talking specifically about some of our emotional blends in her area of specialty, and she'll share a lot of that with you. So we'll be excited to have Dr. Rena Szabo with us today. And then we're going to progress to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Brian Lawrence. Now, quality, as you know, is one of the most prominent features that we always talk about in doTERRA. It's also one of the most valuable propositions that we have with the essential oils, in that as we're fully protective of that, we have this greater opportunity to preserve what we've all come to love. We take that very seriously in doTERRA, and we partnership with a number of people around the world who are all experts. And Dr. Brian Lawrence is an expert in quality. I think you'll be very pleased with what he has to share today. And that will come on the heels of an introduction of a brand new opportunity in doTERRA, which we'll be able to share with you at the conclusion of his remarks. I'm excited for you to learn more today in detail about the science and the things that we'll be doing in doTERRA, not only what we've accomplished, but what we'll be moving to in the future. So will you please help me welcome to the stage our good friend, Jennifer Edens.
Feels like we're sitting on top of a gold mine. Flame so bright that it won't die. In a billion years it'll still be here, 'cause our love is a gold mine. Yeah, our love is a gold mine.
It's been a few years since I've been at conference, and for some of you, you may wonder, what have I been up to? I've been working on my PhD for the past forever, it feels like, but past 4 years. And I just kind of wanted to share with you a minute before we got started about part of the motivation that I had to get my PhD. And it was you guys. I don't get to meet each and every one of you, unfortunately, but the stories that people have talked to me about inspired me to be able to give more of a foundation for the research. We know things work, but why did they work? Let's try to get some science behind that. And so you're part of the reason that I've worked on my PhD. The other part is I wanted to become a better researcher so that I could put more meat in the research and add a lot more value to the body of literature that's out there. So those have been my goals, and that's what I've been working on. So but just know that you've been an integral part of that, and that your stories, even though I can't meet each and every one of you, have been a staying force to get through this, because I think it's a value and an important thing for all of you to have some foundation in the sciences behind everything that you do with the oils. So, sorry. Let's try to, there we go. So this study was done a few years ago, and it was the effects of doTERRA on GARD. On GARD is one of my favorite oils, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about how they worked. So this all started a few years ago in the hospital that I worked at. We began seeing an increase in a health issue that was causing significant risk to patients. And part of that risk was it was no longer just being found in hospital patients. It was being found in the community, people that had never even been in the hospitals. And as time would go on, about that same time, and this is how things always have a way of working out, a dear sweet friend of mine, Peggy Smith, and some of you may know Peggy. She and you all agree. She introduced me to this small essential oil company that was just starting out, and I know all of you now know this company. And after we had began talking to some other staff that worked at the hospital, I began to wonder, with this community outbreak and this huge uptick in this outbreak, I began to wonder how live cultures would interact and respond when exposed to essential oils, and whether the oils could influence the outcome. So, sorry, I went ahead here. So one of the things that became a problem, and it was very apparent with these organisms, is that, just to give you a little background, various microorganisms can become resistant to standard methods of control, and this becomes a problem when there's limited options available. Some organisms, there's 5 options, that's it. There's nothing else that you have an option to treat with. Well, we all know we do, but anyways, sometimes when they'll finally come out with a new option, the genes inside the organisms have already mutated, and the organisms already become resistant, and the mechanism of action no longer works. So, I guess we're moving on. Anyways, the laboratory experiments, what we wanted to do to study how the essential oils and live cultures worked, We started off with 10 microliters of doTERRA On Guard and 10 microliters of Melaleuca, and then put them on separate paper discs. And just for some of you that may not know what kind of a volume that is, that's roughly about 1/6 of a drop for the On Guard. And then the paper discs are just things that we use to, you can impregnate them with any sort of solution that you want to study. And so we use that. It's a standardized method to use to test whether something can be inhibited by whatever you've put on the disc. So we inoculated the plates, and we made what we call a half McFarland. And what that is 1 × 10⁸ colony forming units. So it's actually quite a lot of organism, but they're very small. And we struck it out on a plate, and then we put the discs on, incubated the plates for 18 to 24 hours at 35 degrees Celsius. And for some of you that don't know, that's basically internal body temperature. And then we compared the results. And here we see that overall, On Guard had a 26% increase in zone size inhibition in comparison to Melaleuca. And that hadn't really been published in the literature or anything, so that was pretty exciting information. So we wanted to expand that a little bit and see what else would go on. And so we decided to increase the concentration of On Guard that the organisms were exposed to. We went from 10 microliters to 20 microliters and then to 30 microliters. And as you can see, once we oversaturated the discs, the efficacy decreased slightly. So more is not always better. You can be very effective with a smaller amount. So from this study, we concluded that doTERRA On Guard is more effective than Melaleuca, and that increasing the volume of the oils does not increase the effect on the organisms. But I wanted to be, that's all good and fine to have it in the scientific application, and to be able to say, this is what happens in the laboratory. But I'm a pretty practical person, and so what are some practical applications? And so what we did next was we decided to study some surface cleanings. So this was a smaller study, and we added 3 drops of On Guard to a 32-ounce spray bottle and filled it with tap water. This wasn't any fancy water. It wasn't distilled. It wasn't bottled. It was just regular tap water. Obviously shook it up. And then we sprayed a surface with the solution and allowed it to air dry. And I realize for some of you, air drying is not a possibility. But I'm for Colorado. It doesn't take too long for things to dry. And then we added a suspension of the microbes to the surface, and we allowed it to dry. And so what we were doing was seeing if the organism was going to be able to survive. So we surface swabbed this culture, surface swabbed the surfaces for every day for 7 days. And so what we did is we took a swab, we inoculated it onto plates to see if the organism would be able to grow. And I probably need to take a step back because most people don't realize this. A vast majority of microorganisms, whether it's fungus, parasites, bacteria, viruses, can survive on surfaces for quite some time. Some things only survive maybe 2 days, others 7, 14 days even. And they're surviving on surfaces where there's no food for them. But once they get into contact with a surface that can provide food, like your skin or an agar plate or something like that, they rapidly revitalize and start growing again. And so we wanted to test that to see, because we know certain organisms can survive 7 days, 14 days on surfaces. So that's why we went ahead and swabbed each surface for 7 days and then cultured it to see if it could grow. The organisms were not recovered from the surface. Organisms that are supposed to survive on dried surfaces, when we had sprayed it with the On Guard, they weren't able to survive. And I hope that you guys can grasp that, because it's really it sounds simple, but it's really a big deal. Can we protect our surfaces? That's pretty awesome. And so I really want to do a much larger study now, because this was a smaller study that I did a few years ago. I want to change it up a little bit, do some other surfaces. You know, we just did like a countertop surface, but I would like to also be able to do stainless steel and maybe Dr. Winterton will loan me a prosthetic knee and we can borrow it and do some studies on that as well. And just test different surfaces, do it with the On Guard spray on first, and then the different organisms as well. And then I'd also like to do it the other way around, where we would kind of flip it over, where we're doing not only the, we'll put the organism on the surfaces first, and then spray it, let it dry, and then spray it with the solution, and then see if it can survive or not. And one thing I want to note is, because sometimes, like, when people are told to wash their hands when there's a C. diff infection, the actuality is they're washing the spores off their hands. They're not really killing the organism. And so one of the things I want to point out is we were not wiping the surfaces. We weren't wiping the organism off. We were just allowing it to sit there and air dry. And so that's really an important factor. The organism was interacting with the oils, or the oils were interacting with the organisms, and we couldn't bring them back to life. And so like I said, I want to do a much, yeah, that's really exciting. You guys, you may not think because I'm a microbiologist, I'm a little bit of a germaphobe. I don't want them and, the bad guys around me too much. So to be able to validate that this is a good surface protector, a surface cleaner, those sorts of things is really important. And so I'm hoping that we can do a much larger scale, be able to continue to validate what we're doing, and to be able to maybe prove some of the mechanisms involved with that. And so those are some of the things that I hope to do in the future, and hopefully get published as well soon, once I get those initials after my name. So you'll hear about it, you'll know. And I have a couple of minutes, so this was a smaller experiment, like I said, but I just have a couple of minutes, and I just wanted to share something with you guys. There's so much positive energy in this room, and I just want to, this is nothing to do with bacteria or viruses or parasites or fungus, but one thing, we talked a lot yesterday about yoga and meditation and centering, but one of the things that I just wanted to share with you real quick, the thing that helps center me the most is doing random acts of kindness for other people. And, there's something wonderful about doing something for somebody else. And it's even better if they don't know that you did it, I think. But anyway, so there's 30,000 people here. There's another 10, I've understood, watching online. What if we all did a random act of kindness today? Just a thought. Thank you.
Feels like we're sitting on top of a gold mine. Flame so bright that it won't die. In a billion years it'll still be here, 'cause our love is a gold mine.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage doTERRA Managing Scientist, Essential Oils, Nicole Stevens.
Today. So I was just thinking about how I was standing on a stage like this almost exactly a year ago. Some of you were probably there. We were talking about a little study that we'd done about a little something called the Serenity Restful Complex. Remember this? And we said that we were going to go ahead and submit that for publication. Well, you guys are the first to know. As of Wednesday, like 2 days ago, we got notification that that was accepted for publication. Fully peer-reviewed. Boy, was it peer-reviewed, like a whole year's worth of peer review. And it will be published and available for you to download, print, share, enjoy, love. And we're so excited to have that for you. So today, I am so honored to follow after my colleague Jennifer. We were backstage talking about how it kind of brings back memories of 5 years ago or 6 years ago when we were both presenting, and just all the things that have happened since then. And it's amazing to think about how far doTERRA has come. This crowd, it blows me away. I was sitting clear back in the nosebleeds yesterday and just marveling at you, at all of you. But did you enjoy Jennifer's presentation? Isn't she amazing? I love her. She's so smart. I'm going to be like her when I grow up. So we're going to, on Science Days, sometimes you might get to feel a little bit full, right? Your brain might hurt just a little bit. So we're going to try and not make it hurt. We're going to share some awesome stuff with you, but hopefully in a way that you'll be like, yes, I get that. I love that. So we have a lot to learn, all of us. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming a little bit, even though it feels exhilarating at the same time, at least for me. I'm not going to try and cram 50 slides into the next 10 minutes. I could, but I won't. We're going to talk for just a few minutes about some of the things that you already know. And if you're new to doTERRA, maybe you don't know them yet, but you will. I hope you do. Okay, in that context, I'd like to share with you a quote. I love this quote. Observation, more than books. Experience, rather than persons, are the prime educators. Right? Have you had experience with On Guard? Have you seen its effects in yourself, in your house, in your family? I'd like to just see how many of you have used On Guard in any form today. That is experience. Look around. I have too. I brushed my teeth with On Guard toothpaste this morning and loved it. So, in gaining that experience, what have you learned? Let's think about that. So you know that the On Guard blend is pretty amazing, right? The combination of wild orange, clove, cinnamon, eucalyptus, and rosemary creates this wonderful, uplifting, and energizing aroma that's purifying to the air. It's fantastic. Put into your diffuser or even just inhale directly out of the bottle. You know that On Guard is supportive to the immune system. Okay? It has powerful internal benefits. This particular synergistic blend of essential oils really helps encourage the body's natural antioxidant systems, helps support healthy skin, helps support your respiratory system. My kids absolutely love the On Guard beetlets. Any other fans of those out there? Oh, yes. We pop those little things, and you can bet we've gone through several bags of the On Guard throat drops now that school has started. They really love those as well. You know that On Guard has powerful surface cleansing abilities, right? It's wonderful in the hand wash, in the cleaner concentrate. You know that it's a great alternative to most of the cleaners on the supermarket shelves, right? It's non-toxic, but still gets the job done without introducing a whole bunch of other chemicals into your house. The On Guard Touch in this category is one of my family's absolute favorites. I love to interact with my kids, to put it on their feet, to have that experience, that moment of touch and connection with them. And of course, now we have the glorious new On Guard Sanitizing Mist. Oh, we're so excited about this one. We're excited to have this as an OTC product, and a really awesome one at that. So I'm personally very thrilled to make this a new, convenient way to have our lives be a little bit healthier. And let me tell you why I'm so thrilled with On Guard in general, with this new product, with the whole line. It's because we have a great number of these in our house. And we have a great number of these in our house. So that's my little boy when he was 1 year old. And I gotta tell you, as a 10-year-old, he still kind of eats like that. And that's my little girl with her hamster Goldie. So those of you who have these and these in your house as well, know that they come with a stunning assortment of goo and secretions and juices, right? So the challenge to all of us is several-fold. We want something that can handle the goo and the juices and handle it effectively, but we also want something that won't be toxic, introduce those downstream issues, in our homes, in our kids' lives. That is why On Guard is so amazing. It fits the bill in all those ways. Okay, so that's good and well, you might be saying, right? Perhaps you're asking yourself, why does doTERRA keep making more and more and more products with On Guard? Don't we have enough? No! Oh, good. Preaching to the choir, I know. But if you are thinking that, I promise I won't judge. But let me tell you why the On Guard line is the largest brand in doTERRA and why we continue to offer products with this excellent oil blend. Because it works. Simple as that. As a scientist, I've studied doTERRA On Guard in my own research. Doing research similar to what you heard Jennifer Edens talk about with different kinds of things in the Petri dish, I have seen stunning results with On Guard. So Jennifer Edens has validated this in other microorganisms, in other systems of use, other models, and you've seen her results. There's more. Maybe you didn't know this. There's a great paper by Dr. Wen Wu out of the University of Oklahoma about other applications of On Guard. Some of you have read this, I know, I hear you. This particular paper was very exciting because it was the very first peer-reviewed scientific publication about a doTERRA oil. I encourage you to go look this up if you have a chance. It's a fabulous paper. Dr. Wu presented this research at one of doTERRA's first conferences and really helped set the stage for doTERRA's commitment to investigation, scientific validation, and really high-quality, efficacious products. This is a tradition that we're still continuing today. Dr. Wu's study showed that On Guard may have a unique way of helping the body maintain good health when exposed to health threats. So some of these threats are microscopic organisms that can replicate only inside the cells of host organisms. They attach to the host cell, inject their own genetic material like DNA or RNA into the cells, and then those cells think the genetic material is their own and begin churning it out in large numbers. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. Dr. Wu's team, whose new study is published in the Complementary and Alternative Medicine, found that doTERRA On Guard Essential Oil Blend may have inhibitory effects on the replication process. Okay, and you heard Dr. Hill yesterday mention some of these things in terms of inhibiting that replication process of some of these microorganisms. That is huge. Do you know how important that is? Because these microorganisms
Hi, Ruth. This is Jinya. There's no sound.
And now, please welcome to the stage, Julie Reynolds.
Nothing I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving, so keep dancing.
It's an honor to be here, and to tell you the truth, I don't get that kind of reception at nursing conferences. So, thank you. We are on a journey, one experience, one day, one drop at a time. Now, sometimes that journey seems slow and frankly a little frustrating, and sometimes we're elated with the progress, right? Changing the world, which is what we're doing, right? It's not an easy thing to do. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with just one person. The work of change happens as one person makes a connection with another, and that one idea spreads. Now, the things that I have to share with you today involve a partnership or a collaboration. The best research really works by collaboration and data sharing. And aren't you glad they're sharing the data with us today? I love that. Don't you love Nicole? I have been fortunate to be able to participate in the nursing research at Vanderbilt University Medical Center as a staff nurse in research fellowship. We've benefited greatly from the expertise of Dr. Hill and his team. And one of the studies that I referenced, I need to tell you that it was funded by a Vanderbilt Victor grant, and that the coordinator of that study has a relationship with an essential oil company. That was disclosed and corrected for bias. I also need to clarify that none of these studies are an endorsement from one company to another. Again, this is a partnership and information sharing to benefit the research in healthcare, improving patient outcomes together. In June 2011, I sat in a room with over 100 healthcare professionals, and I caught a vision for natural solutions for healthcare. I still remember writing words in my notes that I couldn't even spell, like sesquiterpene. I remember watching as someone across the room applied Deep Blue to her shoulder, and I watched her light up with excitement over the relief she was experiencing. Now, I didn't understand it all, but what I did understand that somewhere in that word, sesquiterpene, was an answer to many healthcare problems we face. And I don't recommend using that word in your classes. I also started to wish then that I'd kind of given my organic chemistry a little more of my attention. As a nurse, I'm face to face with people who are hurting, scared, anxious, and in crisis moments of their lives. I work side by side with some of the most brilliant and heroic people one could ever meet. We work long, hard hours in a fast-paced environment where people are counting on us to solve those problems, those complicated issues, and yes, they also want us to be nice. Now, this isn't made any easier by increasing workload and outcome pressure, the increasing in regulations, and that stress can lead to burnout, as well as many serious health issues.
In the recent years, this has actually been a frequent topic in professional forums and journals, and as a target of institutional goals as well as personally felt by those in the healthcare field. Workplace stress is something that we can't ignore. The health and wellness of a healthcare team goes hand in hand with the quality patient care that's an expectation of every one of us. Since the early years of the nursing profession, leaders such as Florence Nightingale have recognized the role of nurses in controlling the influence of the environmental factors on health. It's this knowledge that's been an underpinning of nursing practice, as expressed in the first rule of nursing: keep the air within as pure as the air without. It is this principle that led us to seeking natural solutions in healthcare. The American Nurses Association adopted the precautionary principle in 2003. Now, the precautionary principle states that if it's within one's power, there is an ethical imperative to not merely treat problems, but to prevent, even in the face of scientific uncertainty. Now, since that time, we know, and we're hearing a lot about it today, that scientific uncertainty is fading, and we even have more evidence for bringing essential oils into the healthcare setting. The current mode of thinking tends to be how much harm is allowable, and the precautionary principle approach allows us to consider instead, how can we meet our goals in the least harmful way? And that's really exciting. Like most change does, it starts with a need, a question, and an idea about how to address those. It doesn't even really need to be a new idea, it just needs to be an idea that is caught by someone who is willing to move it forward, to share it, and not let it go until it's spread. Now, my idea that essential oils were an answer to workplace stress and those anxious feelings that our patients experience, along with a variety of other physical and emotional issues that can accompany the hospital experience, was not new. As you guys know, it's actually centuries old. In our community alone, in 2008, a nurse at Vanderbilt was caring for an elderly gentleman in a busy hallway of an overcrowded emergency department when it occurred to her that if she could put a couple drops of lavender on his feet, it would do so much good. Tonya McBride took this idea to her colleagues and it spread. In partnership with experts at doTERRA, this idea became foundational to a work that positioned Vanderbilt Nursing as leaders in innovation and research of the essential oils in healthcare. Now, I said before that change doesn't happen overnight. And as many of you know, it's also always accompanied by some resistance. Now, most of us know about how that goes, and in this case, it came in the form of a cautious concern that settled among our leaders. It came in the form of a stop on all diffusing. It appeared then as if essential oils were no longer going to be an option in our institution. Now, let's go back to the day I learned the word sesquiterpene. I've often lamented the fact that I didn't get involved at that time. It was 2 years, and it took a friend urging me to stop thinking about it and do something before I took action. Now, I could regret that and dwell on the what if, and okay, maybe I've done a little bit of that, but the belief that everything happens in perfect time brings to light that this just happened to place me in a position to take a baton and run with it. In 2014, when it was looking like the work at Vanderbilt was done, I was entering into a year-long research fellowship at the encouragement of my manager to investigate the use of essential oils for our ongoing variety of physical and emotional issues related to hospital care. Now, to gain any traction, our studies needed to be approved by the IRB, and that's the Institutional Review Board. The IRB is used in research in the United States to approve, monitor, and review biomedical and behavioral research involving humans. This is basically the way that we assure that the appropriate steps are taken to protect the the rights and the welfare of any human subjects in any research. Now, because of that, it was less complicated to focus our study on the staff than it was to involve patients, which was our original intent and is our end goal. Our studies initially then targeted the issue of workplace stress. Now, I'm not going to share with you the details of the study design. They're readily available online and will be out for publication in the next upcoming year. I would like to share with you some of the outcomes, if that's okay. We did see a reduction in workplace stress, and on the screen are the 2008 outcomes in the emergency department. And then you'll see similar results that we saw in the perioperative area, as well as palliative care. The perioperative area is that time when the patient comes in, gets ready for surgery, goes through surgery, and into the recovery room. These study designs were all very similar, except for the oils that were utilized. In the perioperative area, the team chose citrus oils because we know that lemon, lime, tangerine, and wild orange are known for being uplifting to the mood. In a busy workplace, the focus and energy that were kind of an added perk of the citrus oils. In palliative care, they needed to consider the night shift staff, so they chose a more calming and grounding effect of balance. So we see the holding room. That red line on the screen that you see, we used a nationally validated stress score, and the 14 to 26, that red line, that moderate stress is on a national average. And you see that our baseline is well above that line. The exciting thing is the next box, where you see that while we were diffusing, we saw a significant decrease in our workplace stress. In palliative care, we had 4 categories on that survey, and that also, you also see a decrease in all 4 categories on that stress, on that survey. Now, since our next step in our research was able to take that same study to our patients, we wondered that by diffusing oils in the nurse's station, first of all, we exposed our patients to the essential oils. The other thing we wanted to know is, would a nurse that experiences less perceived stress also have an effect on patient outcome? And we took that question to our research department and had our statisticians take a look at the patient data. And what we saw actually was truly amazing. Along with expressed decreased anxious feelings, the patient data showed us a variation in blood pressure trends and a significant decrease in the need to manage agitation and anxiousness. That's exciting. So this study ends up providing us that initial support that we needed to continue our studies, and the support for the positive effect on a more relaxed caregiver, at least, and really propelled us forward. Now, since that time, I would say those results kind of caught, and our team, Dr. Nancy Wells and Elizabeth Card, Betsy Parker, and I have been all over the country getting to share these outcomes and discuss the conclusions and the possibilities that we could take this into the healthcare setting. I also have had the opportunity to collaborate with many hospitals in establishing nurse-initiated protocols. Nurses around the country, and I'm certain that some of you are here in this room right now. Let me hear you. Nurses at Vanderbilt are catching the vision. So I want to thank you to all the nurses in this room today who are champions of the cause in your workplace. Now, as we work close in partnership, I also wanted my physician colleagues to get on board. So I was studying one day in preparation for a design protocol that we were working on when Dr. Blair, one of our anesthesiologists, leaned over and he saw me looking at this. He said, "What is that? Look at all the anticholinergic properties in that." And he went on and on about everything that this one molecule would do in our bodies. I probably said something like, "That's linalool, and linalool is cool." Again, the organic chemistry. We talked then about all of our wonderful oils that have linalool in them: lavender, coriander, petitgrain, basil, marjoram, and now neroli. We talked about how we could use those, and an idea took hold. A person with a passion to see his patients thrive, using natural substances to overcome some of the obstacles that he faces in his practice when patients do not tolerate the current options. And you know what he did? Well, he didn't rush to change of practice or enroll the anesthesia department. He began using the oils himself and experiencing the benefits. He spent time on the lifelong vitality supplements and understanding them, and he fell in love with frankincense. And yes, now he's moving forward and putting linalool to work in his practice. That's one idea, One idea, one person, willing to spread it with passion, patience, and persistence. Then in a recent meeting with our chief nursing officer, Robin Steben, who's probably a lot of the reason why I get to be here, we were discussing another clinical trial to introduce a new standard of care when she just stopped and smiled and said confidently, I think we have enough evidence. I think it's time to take steps towards changing our practice. That's that elated progress part of the story. This year, we hope to roll out the necessary education and competencies for nurses to feel confident in the use of oils to address anxiousness, sleep, discomfort, and other issues that arise for our patients. We're bringing back the essential lockers, which make essential oils available to staff for their personal needs, available on the participating units. We have a mission to see diffusers in every nurse's station. Now, it's not unusual to have our patients use essential oils, and they are hesitant to, or they come in and they use essential oils. They're hesitant to share with us because they're concerned about some of that resistance that we meet up with. And I'm asked a lot about that, and I just want to say, share with your healthcare providers your essential oils and your essential oil use, just like you do with anyone else. They all have families and personal obstacles to face, and they need to know what you know about essential oils just as much as you need their expertise in your health status. Science is exciting, and it provides the evidence which we can confidently base our practice on. But truth is, to make an impact, you do not need to be able to explain it, and you don't need to know what the word sesquiterpene is. We're provided with many resources to point them to. Let's do that, and then share what you know, just like anyone else. They want to know what you're doing holistically with your health, so share it with them. When they see it working for you, they will support you. They may even ask you for more information. Frances Hesselbein says, culture does not change because we desire to change it. Culture changes when the organization is transformed. The culture reflects the reality of people working together every day. Using essential oils is coming into the healthcare system gradually and for sure. So how we go about introducing that into institution runs into a lot of things: value, evidence, buy-in, quality assurance, cost studies. But when a community embraces the practice, when an institution makes a promise to their patients, and when the proper channels are cleared, powerful change takes place. There are really no shortcuts in lasting and powerful change. I'm here to say that Vanderbilt Nursing is committed to leading innovation and seeking to put essential oils to use, improving essential health and wellness of our healthcare team, as well as improving patient outcomes. Well, I also need to be clear that this isn't an endorsement of one particular brand. We appreciate the expertise that has guided our process through Dr. Hill and his team. Together, we are creating a massive shift in our culture. One day, you will walk into your physician's appointment, and the first question you will be asked will be about your nutrition, your sleep, and what essential oils you are using. When a health determination is made, the first intervention considered will be essential oils and what supplements. Healthcare insurance will be giving incentives not just for not smoking or wearing your seatbelt, but for reimbursing for incorporating those supplements and essential oils into our wellness routine. Every hospital corridor will smell of citrus oils instead of whatever they smell like. Linalool, limonene, and carvacrol will be buzzwords in the halls of the hospital. White coat syndrome will be replaced by peace, serenity, and console. And overnight states waiting for the ability to empty a bladder will be a thing of the past tense. There will be oils in every healthcare professional's pocket, and there will be essential oils in every home. Thank you.
I can see but you when you dance, dance, dance. Feel good creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Rena Saba.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me here today. First, I'd like to thank Julie for starting her foundational work with diffusing doTERRA essential oils in her healthcare setting. She and her team absolutely paved the way for myself and others in our field, so I can do only what she's been doing and following her lead. So I'm Dr. Rena Szabo, and I'm privileged to work for one of the 10 largest non-for-profit healthcare systems in the United States. And in this situation, I am the psychology director for our cancer center, but also for our medical groups. Personally, I've used diffused essential oils for about 16 years in my home and at one time in my private practice. This was back in the day that you could not find a diffuser. You had this nice little cotton pad that air blew through. So we've come a long way. And currently, I'm in a more clinical setting, and I'm working in a cancer center that has multifaceted areas of expertise. And it's a hospital setting. So let me stop there. And I want to explain exactly the clinic I'm speaking about. I work in an integrative oncology clinic. Yeah. Did you hear that? Integrative oncology clinic. Right. I work with phenomenal oncologists, health psychologists, advanced practice providers, nurses, medical assistants, and another group of specialists who are trained in oncology who practice evidence-based complementary modalities and therapies within an allopathic cancer center. We get to work cohesively. We get to work as a team. We get to support our patients and their support system or their family members. We get to do this from diagnosis to treatment, survivorship, recurrence, whatever that cancer journey is. This position to me, okay, I'm a health psychologist, right? This position was like winning the lottery in my career. I couldn't have asked for a better environment or better colleagues. Not only do I get to work on an integrative oncology team, the main purpose is to focus on the body, the mind, and the spirit, along with allopathic oncology care. But the best part of what I get to do is I get to work with some really courageous warriors. These are the people that we call cancer patients. Do you know some of them? I do. And they're amazing people that I've learned tremendously from. So to be on this journey with them is truly a privilege and an honor. So about 3 years ago, I was in the position I'm in now. I was invited to this local convention where I was blessed to meet Dr. Hill. I think all of us can probably remember at least one time in our career, one period that just really stands out, and that is a turning point for us. That was one for me. I'm standing at this conference, and I'm talking with someone scientifically about emotional health issues, behavioral health issues, life issues that impact all of us or people we love, and the science behind using essential oils with these types of issues. We weren't talking about medication. We weren't talking about hospitalizations. We were talking about the use of essential oils. So this was a moment of synergy that leads me to this stage today. So, and there we go. This was thrilling for me. I'm truly honored and excited to be able to share today just one of the many ways that I use essential oils in 3 areas of my career. One in clinical practice, the other in program development, and also to support my team, my colleagues. Because there's a change. There's a change that is happening, a change in healthcare. and it's happening now. It's not happening in the future, it's here and now. I'm a part of it, and all of you are a part of it. You've been a part of it before we in healthcare even knew about it, right? So we are all on this journey together. Never before in my career have the words like integrative medicine, complementary and alternative medicine, whole person healthcare, holistic medicine, or even the mind, the body, and the spirit medicine and healthcare. They've never been embraced in so many areas of this medical field before like they are currently. For the first time in my career, health, wellness, and prevention have a seat at the table like never before. Never before. So, I think it's safe to say that we probably have some things in common here, right? One thing that's very likely is that we've all sat at one time or another in the seat of being a patient. I want you to take just a moment and just close your eyes and think about your medical and healthcare experiences. Let whatever comes to you just briefly come and pop in your mind. Now, my dream is that I could look out here and I could see people with smiles on their faces saying they've had nurturing, empowering, collaborative, and integrative healthcare and well-being experiences. I'm not a Pollyanna, though, so I'm sure that some of us have not had those types of experiences. Sometimes I hear my patients express feeling unsafe, confused, unsupportive, and the like after they've had certain experiences in my healthcare field that I'm in. So when I hear those things, it often comes to mind, and I wonder, how many of those negative healthcare experiences, how many of them are related to compassion fatigue, or provider burnout, or team member burnout and fatigue? So as a health psychologist, I have definitely observed my team members from all areas of the spectrum experience the extreme highs and the extreme lows, especially in the oncology field. They're working alongside patients and their families, and what's required and expected of them is immense. In fact, cancer care providers and team members are really at high risk for compassion fatigue and burnout. Compassion fatigue is the lesser of the two evils, and about 37 to 44% of our providers and team members actually struggle with this. Additionally, just recently, in the 2017 annual meeting, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, it was shared that 32% to 78% of oncology care providers experience symptoms associated with burnout. If any of us in the healthcare industry has a provider out there who has compassion fatigue or even burnout, I wonder what our patient experience would be like. I wonder what well-being would be. I wonder what healthcare would mean to us. So as an advocate for change and having a passion for integrating complementary modalities and therapies for patients and also providers, I decided to initiate a project of using and diffusing the doTERRA aromatherapy blends in our integrative oncology clinic. I I wanted to explore these blends. I wanted to see what kind of impact it had on my colleagues and team members. I mean, I work every day in the clinic with internal medicine, oncology, RNs, PAs, NPs, etc., etc. All of the individuals I work with are really open-minded and amazing individuals. They actually see things from the same paradigm that many of us see them from. They believe in the body and the mind and the spirit connection. So on this next slide, I think that we could go back. I'm sorry. Why don't we jump back on the slides, please? So the aromatherapy blends. Have any of you had them, used them, heard of them? So these are my love. We're talking about my language here. So I'd like to take you on the journey of my exploration. But before we jump into what I learned, I thought it could be helpful to briefly review a little bit about the process of smell. And I know some of the other presenters happened to discuss it a bit yesterday, so I will completely be brief with this. But I find it absolutely amazing that our sense of smell is 10,000 times more sensitive than any other sense in our body. In addition, it's immediate, absolutely immediate. Our other senses, such as taste and touch, they have to travel through our body, through neurons, through our spinal cord, before they ever hit our brain. I'm not sure if anybody is aware of this, but do you realize that through our sense of smell, this is the only place in our central nervous system that actually is exposed to our external environment? It's a pretty powerful process. So the process of smelling goes something like this, right? You have vaporized odor molecules. They reach the nostrils. They settle into the mucus. Underneath that mucus, you have this area called the olfactory epithelium. And this is actually where odor is detected. These receptor neurons transmit information to the olfactory bulbs. There's 2 of them, and they lay in the back part of our nose. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the actual brain. The olfactory bulbs are a part of the brain. So the receptors in the olfactory bulbs have a job, and their job is to take this information or this data and move it to 2 areas of the brain simultaneously. So first, we'll go with the first conscious level. It's sent to the neocortex. And second, it's sent to the limbic system, which we've heard a lot about, and that's our primitive brain. So we can talk about the limbic system all day. This excites me. I don't know how excited you are about it. So again, I will be brief. So the limbic system, complex. The odor hits this olfactory bulb, right? And it will travel around the limbic system, and I could talk about each one of those areas that are up here. But suffice to say, it completely and directly influences emotions, behaviors, social attachment, autonomic functions, endocrine function, sexual function, memory retrieval, memory encoding, circadian rhythms, body temperature, thirst, sleep, hunger, and energy. Pretty amazing primitive brain, huh? Not such a bad part of our being. So to me, though, smell is powerful. And as a health psychologist, I can invite really powerful interventions through this sense for my patients. So we're going to keep coming back to this. Have any of you seen these before? I thought so. And I feel like I'm a little late to the dance, right? I know these came out. This is old news for some, maybe. To me, they still are thrilling, so I love reintroducing them. These blends really intrigued me, though. I wanted to see what could they do clinically? What was their clinical action in a healthcare setting? So here's what I did. I initiated a project that ran for about 10 months, and it included 7 distinct phases. During the first phase, there were no essential oils diffused in our integrative oncology clinic. Status quo, normal processes. In the next 6 phases, a different emotional aromatherapy blend was diffused. And throughout the project, every member of our oncology team was surveyed weekly to assess their workplace stress, coping, feelings, behaviors. At first, I looked at the data. I looked at it globally, and I'm going to share that really briefly with you today. And here's what I saw. First, I saw some statistically significant results. And in my world, when we say those words, that means with great power. It's not just by chance. So, the work-related stress. The percentage of those surveyed felt that work-related stress was less during all the 6 phases of the diffused oils. Prior to diffusing the oils, prior to collecting any data on oils in this clinic ever, the stress level from my colleagues was 69% at work. So our team was stressed out. But guess what? After those 6 phases of diffusing 6 different blends of oil, that rate dropped to 46%. There's still work to do, but look at what diffusing oils in an integrative oncology clinic did for our team. I would rather have my healthcare provider treating me after oils than before. So, moving on, we talked a little bit about feeling overwhelmed in the workplace. Okay? So, about 61% of our team, prior to essential oil diffusion or emotional aromatherapy diffusion, were feeling overwhelmed. And this was statistically significant, the results here, because the decrease of the respondents feeling overwhelmed in the workplace after the 6 phases actually dropped in half to 32%, just because we diffused oils in our clinic. So next, I looked at it again globally on positive and negative feelings. And as the investigator, this is what I was hoping for, right? This is what I wanted to see. Overall, there was a statistically significant increase in positive feelings and a decrease in negative feelings among all integrative oncology team members after the diffusion of the essential oils. I know, pretty exciting. Why aren't we doing this in every hospital, right? About 25% reported positive feelings before the diffusion, and 75% reported negative feelings before the diffusion. 75%, again, that is 3/4 of our team. The report of positive feelings increased to about 42% after we diffused the oils, and then the negative feelings decreased to about 58% after we diffused the oils. At this point in my analysis, I realized that our team was pretty stressed. They were overwhelmed, and they had fewer positive feelings than negative feelings. That's great. I mean, I was in the best place of this hospital, the integrative place, right? And this is what it looked like. I could only imagine what it looked like in other areas. However, then I looked how they perceived their ability to handle stress at work. We have a great healthcare team, a team who give it their all, but they were reporting all these feelings of stress, etc., yet they thought they could handle it. They had a stiff upper lip. They perceived their ability to handle it as being fine. That was pretty high. So this wasn't a statistically significant shift, but for me this was important because when I look at it ultimately, initially 10% of our team did not feel like they could handle stress at work, and that dropped in half to 5%. So yes, it's not statistically significant, but it's very clinically significant from my perspective. Now my curiosity was ignited, right? Even more, I saw significant changes thus far in my analysis. I wanted to take an even closer look. I started with the integrative oncology team reports of positive feelings by blend. So now I wanted to know what blends did what. So this is the fun part, right? As you can see here, there were 4 blends that significantly increased the report in positive feelings. Forgive, cheer, passion, and motivate made statistically significant differences. Specifically, forgive was the leader here. However, the amazing result was that every single oil, there wasn't a bad one in the group, every one of them increased the positive feelings. This is only good, right? So next, I take a look at the negative feelings, right? These results were interesting to me. I had surveyed our team about specific negative feelings. However, as an integrative team, we really communicate well, right? So they decided to write in their own answers. Did not expect that. They took it to the next level. They added the negative feelings that I didn't put in there, and they wrote about it. So this is the reason you'll see here why these percentages are over 100%. I didn't know what to do with this information. Frankly, I was absolutely shocked as how negative our team was reporting to be, but also so grateful for their honesty and their integrity and ability to communicate what they were experiencing at work. Again, Forgive took the lead here. It decreased negative feelings and was followed closely by Cheer and Motivate. So I was then curious about the blends and how they impacted the feelings in relation to other blends. So I analyzed each feeling, right? I did it separately. So of those surveyed, only 18% felt happy at work prior to the oils. But Cheer and Forgive showed statistically significant results in increasing happiness at work. So you want to be happy? Look at Cheer and Forgive, right? Next, I explored positivity in the workplace. Prior to diffusing the oils, only 2% of our team indicated feeling positive at work. The celebration here is that all of the oils increased positivity at work and while being there. Cheer, passion, forgive stood in the forefront again. So given that the integrative oncology clinic is a very relaxing environment, I was surprised to find that only about 5% of our team felt relaxed prior to work with coming to work before we're diffusing the oils, All of the blends increased the feelings of relaxation. But the statistically significant change occurred with Motivate, Cheer, and again, Forgive. So now it was time to look at the negative feelings in detail. I assessed frustration, anger, fatigue, and tiredness, and anxiety amongst my coworkers. Looking at this chart, it's obvious that there was a lot of frustration amongst our team. These results are really fantastic because every blend decreased levels of frustration reported. However, the standout here, and it was absolutely no responses on Forgive. So, I know I can't say this, but if you want to have no frustration, just use Forgive and you'll have 0 frustration, right? So, anger, the elevated feeling from frustration, right? This data was positive in that all the blends decreased reports of feeling angry, right? There are a lot of choices here. You can pick it. Look at that data, you guys. We have cheer, forgive, console, or peace. Your anger will disappear. Your frustration, anger, right? So now we look at anxiety, and this was pretty interesting to me. About 24% of our team indicated feeling anxious at work. Cheer and Motivate had extreme impacts on those who were surveyed. None felt anxiety when those two blends were being diffused. However, Passion and Forgive also decreased levels. The standout for me, though, that I didn't want to even acknowledge, but I had to, was that Peace and Console actually increased anxiety. Okay, how am I going to come and share this information with you? That's what I was thinking. But it was so ironic, right? How could that anxiety go up? I was afraid I was going to have to pick up the phone and call Dr. Hill and tell him he needed to rename his blends. But before I picked it up, what I did is I looked a little deeper. And you got to love the outlying factors that play into any kind of research, exploration, or project. And I put the two blends side by side. It was a 3-month period that they were being used. Well, guess what? That's when we changed management. So maybe it had nothing to do with the oils at all. Maybe it was because we were going through a very large change in our system. That concept of chance really played a role. And as I reflected, that during those 3 months, it was important to realize if we weren't diffusing those oils, what would the rate be then? So when I analyzed those results, I realized that half my colleagues are zombies at work. They're asleep or they're fatigued. Not only that, but Motivate only minimally decreased reported levels of fatigue or any kind of tiredness amongst my colleagues and my team members. All of these other blends actually increased feelings of being tired and feelings of being fatigued. How could that be? As I pondered the data, it came clear to me that there might be a correlation between the report of being tired and being relaxed. I wondered if, prior to the diffusion of all of our blends, that my colleagues perceived being relaxed at work and tired at work pretty distinctly. Then, possibly after the diffusion of the blends, the separation between the feeling of being tired and the feeling of being relaxed began to blur or merge. So maybe the responses were more related to relaxation than actual tiredness. This is a great beginning for upcoming research, if any of you want this, something to look at. As I already shared, the team has an open communication, so much so that they provided additional information that I want to quickly share with you today. Overall, Forgive is powerful when diffused, and it provided statistically significant levels of change, as we've already shared. Forgive was the only blend to both increase the positive feelings and decrease the negative feelings. Forgive is my new gold standard. In addition, here are some of the words that my colleagues said. That they felt less anxious, less apathetic, less gloomy, and less angry when Forgive was being diffused. Motivate also was very significant because it reduced all of the negative feelings. And the team shared that they felt less bitter, less distressed, less discouraged, less fearful, and less insecure. And lastly, cheer also made a statistically significant difference in reducing negative feelings. My colleagues also added that they felt less worried, less distressed, less sad, less ashamed, less bored and distressed, if I didn't say that already, at work. So some people may believe that when you explore a question, the goal is to attain an answer. However, it's my belief that the ending of any exploration should conclude with one or more questions. So I leave you with my question. If diffusing emotional aromatherapy blends has the power to positively impact an integrative oncology cancer center team, then can you imagine what therapeutic value might be if they were integrated into other specialties in healthcare, into our daily life? This is about you. How do you answer this question? I can tell you that I'm already in the midst of another research project with essential oils because I have so many questions to be explored. With every question, I plant a seed in my health care industry. I have an opportunity to share this with my colleagues. Well, you have an opportunity. I will do my part in planting seeds throughout the healthcare system. Will you? This is a call for you. You need to plant the seeds in your communities and in all of your connections in your healthcare experiences. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my passion of body, mind, spirit connection. God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Brian Lawrence.
Good morning. You want to know why this old man's sitting on the stage? Well, the reason is I've worked for the past 50 years on essential oils. Once I get this clicker working, we'll find out why. About 2 years ago, I was approached by doTERRA to take a look at some of the work they were doing. And I decided I wanted to find something out about doTERRA. And so I said, you know, if I tell you something, you're going to listen to me. Because I know something about essential oils. I've grown them, I've distilled them, I've run farms, I've analyzed every essential oil that's out there, plus some. And they said, we're willing to learn, we'll make some we'll take a look at your suggestions, and we're willing to do something about it. That's good, that's very good. Secondly, I said, I worked with a lot of different companies as a consultant, and I find some of them cheat. I want to know, are all of your lab work above board? Do you do this work in the lab? Are you above board? And they said yes, and I said, that's good, I'm along with that. And then, having done a lot of work both in North America as well as in India and in the Far East on working with farmers and distillers, I always see the farmer and distiller, they get screwed. They're the ones that make the least amount of money. And I wanted to work with somebody who's willing to have the farmer and the distiller make some money. And doTERRA will do this. And then when you're working with the farmers and distillers, you've got to know something about what are their problems. You know, are there educational problems? Are there disease problems? Do they have problems getting their agricultural support? And doTERRA does this, so why not work with them? Believe it or not, there are only 17,500 essential oil-bearing plants in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that all plants that smell have essential oils, but the essential oil-bearing plants are those that contain particular glands. Now, in the past, essential oils were literally being produced in France and in Italy and in Spain, but more recently, the main production areas for essential oils has been Asia. And so India and Indonesia and China have been the big producers. However, that's not true in the case of citrus, and it's not true in the case of mint, with one exception. The mint that used to make menthol basically comes from India. To become vertically integrated, which is what doTERRA's goal is, you have to be able to have someone who can successfully cultivate a plant and produce and understand that crop, but you also have to be able to understand it by using the agrochemicals such as pesticides and herbicides that are both permitted within the country and permitted within the import country. And then you have to be able to process. No good just getting a plant and taking it. You've got to be able to process it eventually into an item like an essential oil by some sort of distillation process or a cold pressing process, and then to deliver that essential oil in an acceptable form to the marketplace. That oil then has to meet strict standards, which there are international standards on oils, and there are internal standards by companies that purchase them. You really ought to have to be able to meet the world market prices, because there are world market prices on oils, and you end up having to trust the integrity of the essential oil and to guarantee a certainty of supply. It's no good having an oil that down the road, if it's particularly wildcrafted, then there's no longer any oil available. Now, changes in geographical origin can have an effect here. For example, the United States was always the largest peppermint manufacturer for years, and then over the last 15 years, India started producing. This year, India will produce somewhere around 225,000 metric tons, whereas in the United States, that will be a much larger proportion, but nevertheless, there's some coming out of India. There is also a variability of supply versus the supply from one country to another, and then some countries do put tariffs and regulations on that oil, so it makes it difficult to bring that oil in. And then I'm not going to talk here about adulteration, because I'm going to talk about that a little later. One of the problems with essential oils is governments aren't funding that work anymore. At one time you could get government funding and they would put together the work related to get the essential oil going. There are a number of scientists that are now familiar with all facets. I mean, I'm one of those, fortunately I'm old, so I've been one of those lucky people that basically has been around since from seed all the way to the final end essential oil, no matter whether it's a tropical or a subtropical. And also one who starts worrying about world pressures on the land. You know, in 1850 there was 1 billion people that lived in the world. In the year 2017 there are 7.4 billion people, and when you get to 2050 there's going to be 9.4 billion people. That's a lot of people. To establish personal relationships, and I mentioned this briefly, and I'm a full believer in team approaches. I like to work as a team rather than a single person, and working then with the local growers and making sure that there's partnerships going on between the grower and the supplier. Now let's talk about essential oils briefly. Essential oils sitting individual receptacles within plants. They can be glandular hairs that have a little duct on top of it, a storage area, and they can be in different parts of various parts of plants. And I'm going to show you, here's an example of a subcuticular oil gland sitting on the leaf, and I'll show you this, and that's the underside of a spearmint leaf. The little, or the big fat thing there is a 10-celled essential oil gland containing the spearmint oil. The smaller glands are the 3 to 7 cell glands that also contain it, and that little thing on the top right-hand corner that looks like an eye, that's the breathing. That's how the leaf breathes. That's where it takes in carbon dioxide and kicks out oxygen. Now, this is what a gland looks like. This is a photomicrograph of a basal gland. Here's the glands that are sitting both on the flower as well as on the leaves of Roman chamomile. Now, in the case of seeds, this is cumin seed, and there are vitae, which is basically just another area where the oil is found, where it's being stored, where it's secreted towards. And then there are some plants that instead of having their essential oil glands on the leaves, they have them subcutaneously. And this is like eucalyptus, but there's also same thing with tea tree. And then ginger. Well, ginger is in the roots or in the rhizome, which is actually an underground root. And that gland there is a dump place for the oil. But in addition, there are ducts that run up all the way from the root system, all the way up the stem, all to the flowering system. And that happens with a number of plants. For example, in celery. We all know that celery, when you break open celery and choose a piece of celery, it tastes like celery. some of that taste comes from the essential oil gland, the duct that is running up through the stem. This is lavender. Lavender, and this is the calyx, the little, like, small leaf-like item directly under the flower, and you can see the hairs on it. That's the hairs as well as the really pretty essential oil gland. Now, I want to define quality. I'm going to read this because I think this is very critical and very important. Quality informs the user that the product, and in our situation, the essential oil, possesses standard, distinctive, perceptual, remember this, subjective, distinguishing attributes which conveys excellence and superiority. But to attain quality in a product like an essential oil, you have to have a method to measure quality. And this is done by a verified maintenance measurement process, which through the use of a whole series of tests that are done both quantitatively and qualitatively, you can determine whether or not it is a quality product. And then quality assurance, and you may hear some companies say we have a quality control department, we have a quality assurance department. What the quality assurance means is every time an batch of oil comes in, it has to meet the same quality specifications that was met by the other one, by the previous one. Specifications, they can be anywhere thing. They're the most straightforward specifications are like density and specific gravity and refractive index, and these are simple measurements. They can be a whole other run. Flash point's important. Flash point is a measurement where when you heat up the essential oil, at which point does it flash and catch fire? Well, you need to know this because of storage, for sending it from one place to another. You need to be able to handle it. You need to be able to transport it. So that's critical. And then there are loads and loads and loads of other tests, some of which you know something about. For example, this is a gas chromatograph. I won't go into bore you of gas chromatography. All it is a method of taking a mixture and simplifying it. Doesn't tell you anything about what it is, it just tells you the mixture has got a lot of things in it. Now there is a methodology called gas chromatography and mass spectroscopy, GCMS. And that's a method in which you go through the separation process, and then mass spectrometry is a method to be able to determine what the heck that compound is that you separated. And if you look at it like a layman, it's like taking a chemical compound and chopping it up with an axe, and then having the computer put it back together to be able to identify what it is. So what is a genuine natural essential oil? Remember, an essential oil is an isolate from any plant material, any part of plant material that contains essential oil glands, and it can only be produced by physical means. Can't be extracted. CO2 extraction, that's not an oil, that's an extract. And then it can be produced by physical means, and physical means can be pressing. And I've just quickly run through a methodology. This is the FMC process to get the oil and juice out of oranges. This just crushes the plant, crushes the orange, the juice comes out the bottom. The peel, which is where the oil glands are in orange, get flushed out with water, and then through a bunch of filtering and centrifugation, you get the oil. Interestingly enough, when you saw yesterday Enzio Misitano showing you the wild orange, he did mention briefly, but he get his essential oil not this way, but he uses sfumatrice, which is a really nice methodology. Okay, essential oil is what it is. It's a VOC. It's a mixture of chemicals, volatile organic chemicals. Can be 20 to 80 of them above 1% or above 0.1%. And there can be anywhere from 300 to 400 compounds which are there, maybe to anywhere from 0.001% up to 0.1%. So from parts per million to percentages amounts. Are all of these compounds important? Yes, they are. Both the smaller ones as well as the larger ones. In the world of essential oils, and I'll get into this, I tend to worry about this. A lot of companies buy essential oils, not doTERRA, but other companies buy essential oils and find out that their essential oil doesn't quite meet the specifications, so they'll add a compound to it to ensure that it's standardized. A standardized oil is an adulterated oil. And here's an example of, and this was something that really surprised me. I was in France 25 years ago looking at lavender oil production, and I saw that the distiller, the lavender flowers were placed in the still, and then the distiller had a little bucket of what he called the wetting agent and put it all over the top of the plant material. That plant material then got distilled. I snitched a sample of that wetting material, took it back to my lab and found out that it was in fact lineal acetate, the major compound in, it was a synthetic lineal acetate, but it's the natural lineal acetate, the major compound of lavender. I was able to show that that's a typical example of adulteration. And here's his lavender, and that's him collecting and cutting the flowers, but I was more interested in in what they were doing. Now, also a few years ago, I was in the Willamette Valley near Albany, Oregon, trying to look at dillweed oil production, and I saw that there was a wetting agent being used there. That wetting agent was in fact limonene X-orange oil, which stunks of orange. However, when you distill the plant material with this limonene on it, the orange character disappears. Nevertheless, all you ended up with a dill oil that had a higher limonene content, and it was an adulterated oil. There are many forms of adulteration. First one is the addition of foreign substances that have absolutely nothing to do with an essential oil. They're just done to dilute it. The second is the addition of natural chemicals, those that are found in an essential oil, but they're not from that particular oil. Then you have the addition of synthetic versions of that particular chemical, and those are added to oils. And then you have addition of fractions of or other oils that are added. All of this is adulteration. I've got some examples. These are oils that I've analyzed that show some examples of what in fact has been found. And here you can see the compounds don't mean anything. It's just this, and you can see the countries of origin from where the oil come in: dibenzyl ether, diethyl glycol, monoethyl ether, diacetyl, propylene glycol, dibutyl acetate. None of these exist naturally occurring. These were just found in oils that were being sold. That's just, I just put these into, you get bored listening to some guy rattling on, so I thought, now here we have it in adulteration examples of where they take oils that are synthetic, that are found in the natural component, but these are the synthetic versions that have been added. Lineal acetate in clary sage from a French company. Citral is a joint, is neral and geraniol. Neral and geraniol, when you get it synthetically, are in 50-50 ratio, whereas you find it in melissa oil, they're in a very, very different ratio, so it's very easy to determine. Lineal acetate, alpha-terpineal acetate, and cardamom oil, they're found, both of those are synthetic out of the coal tar industry. Nevertheless, it was very easy to determine this. Lineal acetate, we saw neroli yesterday, bitter orange flower, and neroli contains lineal acetate. That happened to that analysis I did, and that was a US company that was selling it that contained synthetic lineal acetate. A British company that I bought some anise oil from contained anethol, and anethol comes out of the coal tar industry, and it was easy. No, actually it comes out of the pine product industry. That was the same area that you get alpha pinene, turpentine area. And linalool from coriander, cinnamic aldehyde. The Chinese are really clever. They were able to make cinnamic aldehyde synthetically, as cinnamon oil and castor oil both contain cinnamic aldehyde. The cinnamic aldehyde is difficult to determine because there's no chirality, and I won't even get into that on this, but however, when you look at the synthetic that's going in there, you look for the impurities of that synthetic, you can find out how they made the cinnamic aldehyde, and that's pretty straightforward to determine. benzyl acetate and paracresol methyl ether. I know these are a whole bunch of chemical words. I happen to be a chemist, so I love these. Nevertheless, that they were identified in ylang-ylang. And again, to stop you getting bored with this guy rattling on, here's ylang-ylang. This is an ylang-ylang bush in the Comoro Islands. Here's a young lady harvesting the flowers. They're quite leathery, these flowers. They're very interesting. Then here's the flowers that are in the basket, ready to be distilled. And I switch countries. This is a Reunion, and this happens to be a really beautiful, old-fashioned water distillation system right on in Reunion, showing that it can be really pretty to go to some of these places. Another adulteration examples are the use of other oils. Clove leaf oil, there's tons of leaf, there's very few buds, and when you have clove bud oil, it can put clove leaf oil in it, but you can determine that by looking at the ratios of all the components that are present in leaf oil and then the bud oil to differentiate them. Acetylated hoe oil, there's a typical example. This was clever. Hoe oil contains linalool, acetylation makes it lineal acetate, that then gets added to lavender oil, but that was very easy to determine that was found in there. And you can see where the origin of the companies. Yarrow, Achillea millifolium, is an oil that contains camazulene, just like we saw the other day, or yesterday. Camazulene placed in blue chamomile. However, yarrow contains a bunch of other components that make it very easy to differentiate between blue chamomile and to determine it's there. Gurgeon balsam is one of those oils that's rich in hydrocarbons, and so it's not found in patchouli, but unfortunately it's also found in Indonesia, and Indonesia's the main source of patchouli. I think this year there's going to be about 13,000 metric tons produced. 1,300 metric tons. I got so many pieces of number in my head I can never remember. Geraniol and palm rose, a typical example. Demethylized peppermint oil was really bad. The peppermint industry cheated like anything on this, because when you take corn mint oil and you freeze crystallize out the menthol, you got something called demethylized oil. That demethylized oil's got a lot of the same components as does peppermint, but that was being done for a long time. Orange terpenes. Orange terpenes are dirt cheap. Mandarin oil is quite expensive. That was a way of looking at these adulterations. Again, pretty straightforward for a chemist. And then minus carvone. Now, I got the minus there just because, carvone has one chiral form. That one smells of spearmint. If it was the plus form, it smells of caraway. So it's quite different. Where does doTERRA get its oils? Well, I think the beauty of this is the fact that doTERRA is now spending a lot of time and effort sourcing the oils in various parts of the world, and even putting oils from parts of the world that weren't naturally the source of that oil originally. And so, we don't want to see, that's boring. There are very few companies that are vertically integrated. And vertical integration really means I have control of the raw materials that I want to sell, the raw materials that I want to use. And to be able to do this, many companies haven't done this. They've talked about it. I've worked with some companies who said, well, we're going to vertically integrate. And when I found out they weren't, they wanted my name associated with their vertical integration, and I wouldn't allow it. This way I can say that about 80% of the oils are being vertically integrated and produced. And these are the reasons why I will work with doTERRA, because they are doing things the way I wanted an essential oil company to do. And I have one final comment which is very interesting. Aromatherapy doesn't have a scientific definition, really. So I said, let me see, there is a scientific definition that I can think up. Let's see, it is a sensory mediated psychoneuroendocrinology. That's what it is. Thanks for your attention.
many people believe that all oils are the same, they could not possibly be the same. And quality is the defining factor of whether or not an essential oil is actually going to accomplish what you and I would like it to.
You have to do what they're supposed to do every time. People have a very high expectation of doTERRA's essential oils, that they're going to get the results that they expect. And so we cannot compromise on quality.
Each oil goes through a battery of tests. We do organoleptic testing, specific gravity, GCMS, FTIR, optical rotation, refractive index. We do contamination testing, and we do stability testing every single time.
Quality is job one, and it's at the heart of what we do to ensure that every oil is exactly what we advertise it to be: pure, efficacious, and people can get repeat results, and they know the results that they're going to get.
We take great steps in not just determining the purity of the oil, but understanding in great detail the potency through where we get the plant from, how we distill the essential oil, and how we are protective of that process all the way through. That then gives us an essential oil that has the value that we've all come to expect from doTERRA.
As we source essential oils, quality is at the heart of everything we're doing. When we look for a partner, we look for a partner with knowledge of the plants, knowledge of the distillation processes, knowledge of the chemistry, and someone that we can work with that understands the importance of that. We need partners who are committed to the same cause that we are, which is providing the best oils in the world.
This is why doTERRA came to be. We knew that we had to have an essential oil that we could depend on, that would work every single time. It didn't exist in the marketplace. We knew that we had to go out and create it, which meant we're working with farmers on the ground in 46 countries and growing, so that every single family, every single individual can open up a doTERRA bottle and know they're going to get effective results every single time.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage doTERRA's Vice President of Corporate Relations and European Markets, Kirk Jowers, and members of the panel.
Oh man, this is exciting. Wasn't Dr. Lawrence amazing? I don't know if you know, I don't know if all of you know who he is. Those of you who've been in essential oils for a while, you all know this is a man with over 80 original articles, 13 books, 18 book chapters, founder of the Journal of Essential Oil Research, known as the Godfather of Essential Oils. There's a rumor, I don't think it's true, but I've heard it, that when the wise men were looking for a gift, they asked him. So, it can't be true. All right, doTERRA essential oil enthusiasts, wannabe scientists, how jealous of me are you right now? I've been spending time with 5 of the greatest scientists on earth in essential oils. I have the dream team right here. Over a century of wisdom and experience right next to me. So get ready for a special edition of Ask doTERRA. Now, my only problem is that we only have 30 minutes, so I'm going to go faster. We need 30 years with them to get even a portion of what they've discovered. Read their bios and learn all about their research in your convention materials and we'll give this later, www.aromaticplant.com. Plant is singular in that. Now let's get straight to the questions. Again, I'm a little in awe to be sitting with five such amazing scientists. And we would have an additional scientist here, but Dr. Nora Dasoki is in Egypt, but was kind enough to provide this video to show that her heart is with us today.
Hello, doTERRA. This is Nora Dasoki from Vanderbilt. I'm so sorry not to be with you for that great convention. While reviewing my video, I will be in Egypt researching. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm specialized in natural product drug discovery. I got my PhD from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. And currently, I'm a postdoc research fellow in Vanderbilt University, Department of Pharmacology. I'm so honored to be part of the scientific committee for the Aromatic Plant Research Center in doTERRA, and I really cannot wait to join you soon. So please have a great time at the convention, and thank you so much.
I can't wait for you to get to know her better. Dr. Dasoki has a PhD degree in biotechnology, science, and engineering, and she is now serving a fellowship at the Vanderbilt School of Medicine, an incredible asset to this incredible team. So what is this team? I'm going to start with you, Aaron. Aaron has built relationships with over 50 essential oil producers worldwide in over 25 countries. He is pursuing his education again, but today we're here to talk about the Aromatic Plant Research Center. What is it?
Great, Kurt. We're excited to be here with you today, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know what is APRC. And at its core, it is a research center that is specifically focused on aromatic plants and essential oils. And we've got some of the best technology to be able to test and analyze essential oils, but really what gives us the key advantage of what we want to accomplish is this panel here, this board, this executive board with over a century of experience, as you said, Kurt, being able to understand where essential oils come from, how to test them, how to ensure that they are the highest quality. And so everything involved with aromatic plants and essential oils is what is at the core of what APRC does.
Thank you. Can you tell me a little bit about how this incredible board came together? And is this it? This is more than you could ask for, these six. But how do we get this group, and is this going to be the end of the group?
Sure. No. So over the years, really the essential oil industry is really a tight-knit group, and as you get to work in the industry and see a lot of the different where things are grown and things that happen, you run into some very interesting people, some very experts and really people that know what they're doing in the industry. And you have some of the finest minds on the stage here, and we'll continue to expand that. Really, one of the things that makes APRC unique is that it is a group. As Brian just talked about in his session there too, it's not just focused on an individual, it's collaborative. It's working together to be able to continue to educate and help people understand what are essential oils and where do they come from and how can we effectively use them and make them sustainable going forward.
Dr. Lawrence, you mentioned in your presentation you'd much rather work as a group than just be some individual researcher looking oil by oil. So why is it important for the essential oil community for this group to exist? And why did you feel it was important for you to join at this point?
Well, one of the things that I thought about with essential oils, and that is most companies and most things that I've done relate to singular studies. Most essential oils are being grown without too much care about where they're being grown. Are they sustainable? Is the ecosystem worthy of having that oil? I mean, I've introduced a plant. I grew chamomile in eastern North Carolina and found out that the birds like the seeds and introduced a new weed into North Carolina because I wasn't being careful enough. That can happen, and so you really need to pay attention. And I like the idea of working with a group of people, both from the sourcing standpoint, from the environmental standpoint, from the chemistry standpoint, because that's the only way you can get successful information from it.
Excellent, thank you. Dr. DiCarlo, you spend extended amounts of time in some of the most rural, underdeveloped, some would say dangerous countries in Africa and South America. In fact, you were featured, some of you may know her if you watched the CNN special report on frankincense. She was kind of the feature of that. What efforts, let's go straight to that initially. We care a lot about the sustainability of these plants. What efforts are currently being made to conserve frankincense?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here today. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. Currently, we are working on the ground in the communities, and that's the first most important thing to do to reach sustainability is to cooperate with the communities who live and depend on these trees and plants for their livelihoods. So learning from them, listening to them, and cooperating with them is the first step to sustainability. And then the second step for being on the ground and working in country is to analyze the environmental conditions and how to achieve sustainability cooperatively for both interests.
Thank you. You touched on, I just want you to go a little deeper into why is it important for us to understand where the oils come from and how they are sourced?
Yeah, sure. So understanding where the oils come from enables us to empower both sides to have the greatest sustainability. So when we understand, we have mutual understanding for each other, then we can achieve sustainability. And in the case of frankincense, sustainability means resting trees, taking good care of the trees, and also taking very good care of the communities.
Excellent. Doctor, yes, thank you. Dr. Sachal, you have studied the chemical composition of more than 10,000 essential oils. I'm looking over at the founding executives. I haven't looked at our catalog for a while. Do we have 10,000 singles yet?
10,000 different oils. Yeah.
We got some work to do. Okay. You're one of the most respected essential oil chemists in the industry. You've published over 90 papers on essential oils, and then abstracts. We go well above 100. You've built your own GCMS library for essential oil components. I have a few questions. First, analytical testing of essential oils is a powerful tool in verifying and ensuring oil quality and purity. What are the best methods for testing essential oils?
Very good questions. There are several instrumental techniques available for essential oil analysis. All of the instrumental techniques have some kind of limitations. None of them are 100% perfect. So, your oil can pass all the tests, but in fact, they might have been adulterated. So, we are analyzing oil on the basis of marker-based analysis and chiral-based analysis. Marker-based analysis includes biomarker and synthetic marker, and I have done lots of research on biomarker and synthetic marker, and that experience will be much more helpful on analyzing essential oil rather than any instrument. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Lawrence, it just kind of struck me, you would be the one who would know this. I talked about how many essential oils he's examined. How many aromatic plants are there on Earth?
Well, there are 7 essential oil-bearing plants. Everybody in the audience knows there are 17,500 essential oil-bearing plants found on the globe. That's a very small number, but it's only a few of them have been exploited, maybe only in the terms of commercial exploitation up to about 400.
About 400. About 400 are sold commercially? Yeah. Back to you, Dr. Sachal. Your library is becoming a thing of legend. Why did you create it? Why was it important for you to build this?
Just recently I talked about instrumental limitation on essential analysis. And I created my library to overcome that instrumental limitation. Like my library has synthetic marker, and it can analyze most of the commercial essential oil. There were not much library available in market which can analyze all of the commercial essential oil at the same time. That's why I created library.
Yeah. Thanks. It's an incredible resource for the APRC. Thank you for doing that.
Welcome.
So Dr. Setzer has done decades of research on examining the biological activity of essential oils, particular focus, which is very wise, on tropical plants, and spent a great deal of time gathering raw materials in country, distilling oils, and then doing lab work on those oils. I kind of have a confession. I think I want to be you. I worked at a university for 10 years, and I know the educational junket, but you've got Costa Rica, the Bahamas, Australia, Brazil, and this is all work for you. So you're often in these exotic places looking for new essential oils. Where are some of your favorite places to do your research? Where are you finding the most help to your work?
I think most of our work has been in Monteverde, Costa Rica. It's an incredibly biologically diverse area, and so I would go there with a number of students. Basically, we're looking for new medicines from tropical rainforest plants. And when I go through the field doing bioprospecting, I sort of do I'll call it the scratch and sniff technique, right? So we'll walk down the trail with a knife and nick the bark or grab some leaves and smell them. So we necessarily come up with aromatic plants, and we'll collect those and look at them.
That's amazing. Is there any new discovery that you can share with us? We just heard that there's 17,500 aromatic plants and 10,000 essential oil compounds and all these different things. Are we still finding new ones?
Well, that's a good point. Just in Monteverde, Costa Rica, looking at the Lauraceae family, there are probably, at least that I'm aware of, about 10 species that still don't have names. In the Myrtaceae, we have maybe a half dozen that still don't have names. And one of those we found just going through the field doing the scratch and sniff. I grabbed these leaves and it just exploded with aroma. So this is great, right? And so I took my botanist collaborator and he explained to me that this tree still does not have a name.
Huh.
That was just great.
There could be a Setzer oil coming soon. It'll be a huge seller. Aaron, I want to come back to you a little bit. So we've got a little glimpse of kind of the amazing people and the diversity of people that we have on this panel on the Aromatic Research Plant Research Center.
Yes.
We get questions with doTERRA. We've always had a very rigorous third-party testing of our oils.
Right.
How does APRC fit into this legacy of always having third-party testers to go with our in-house testers?
Well, that's a good question, Kurt. And actually, it reminds me of a conversation I had recently with some of the doTERRA owners, specifically on this. Is how do we maintain internal and confidence in what we're doing, but also have the independence of a third-party group. And I think it was Corey Lindley who made the comment. If you're the best in the world at providing essential oils, and you're on the cutting edge of offering genuinely pure essential oil therapeutic products, why wouldn't you bring people in-house that can do that research and be able to ensure it internally? And I think doTERRA has done a great job of doing that with individuals like Dr. Cody Beaumont and Dr. Tori Parker and also Nicole Stevens. I mean, they're all doing an excellent job internally for doTERRA. But you can also establish a lot of collaboration with individuals that have decades of years of experience in the industry as well, and continue to maintain that independence and also be able to work together to really provide the best quality and best expectation for essential oils. I think that's one of the great things that I'm really have been in love with essential oils, and why I'm excited about everything that we want to accomplish as this APRC board is ensuring essential oil genuine purity is a huge undertaking. It can't just be compartmentalized into being involved with sourcing. It can't just be compartmentalized into analytical testing, or even just research. You really need all three of those combined together, working together, to be able to ensure that you've got genuinely pure, therapeutic grade essential oils. And that's why I'm excited to be a member of this team and this board, because we've got, again, decades of people that, Ann Jeanette, she looks forward to sleeping in the mountains of the Calmadeo in Somalia. Not many people want to do that. And being able to also go to Costa Rica and other places and just experience new things. And Dr. Lawrence, being able to go, and the decades of experience you've had on the ground and building distilleries and essential chemistry and understanding what should be in an oil, what shouldn't be in oil, how do we detect that? And my good friend Dr. Satyal, we've worked together for a number of years now, and I've been amazed at his ability to look at essential oils and be able to be a detective in essential oil work and be able to see what happened to this oil by little indicators. He's the Sherlock Holmes of essential oil testing, and I really enjoy learning from him. And it's been a pleasure of mine to be able to work with these ladies and gentlemen through the years and get to know them better. And I can't help but feel a little bit like the Howard Wolowitz of the group as I'm looking at all these doctors and knowing that I get the opportunity to continue to learn from them and grow and will continue to expand. And that's what's exciting about essential oils, is you could spend a lifetime on every one of them. And we want to be able to educate and be able to portray that to what we're working on and what we spend our lives doing, and be able to teach people about our findings and be able to help other people understand what comes from understanding where it comes from, how we test it, how we continue to research it, and the benefits that I think doTERRA wants to offer to all of its wellness advocates too.
Excellent. Thank you. Dr. Lawrence, you mentioned a little bit in your presentation about adulteration. As I walk through certain department stores now, Dave Sterling mentioned how Verify Markets gave credit to doTERRA for really revolutionizing this essential oil industry, being the singular reason for its rise. And so now we're seeing copycats. I went in one, every oil was the exact same price. Your frankincense, Dr. DeCarlo, that you're devoting your life to, exact same price as lemon. And as I understand it, it's a little more difficult to get the frankincense out of Oman and Somaliland and other places than lemon. Obvious adulteration, right? What define adulteration? What types are there? What are these companies doing that are putting stuff out? Sometimes they're even putting pure. How do I make sense of all this?
Well, I think the people who are in the audience know something about it, because I talked to them briefly about adulteration. In the past, it's interesting, if you look back in the 1950s or maybe 1940s, most of the time, adulteration, they just used things to dilute the oil with whatever was available, because things were being sold by weight. I can remember back a few years ago, there's an international association called International Federation of Essential Oil and Aroma Trades. It started because Indonesians sold water as in drums of water that contained a few liters of patchouli oil sitting on top of the water. That's what they did. Everything was being sold by weight. And then more recently, because of the use of methodologies such as gas chromatography and gas chromatography mass spectroscopy, it's like you no longer see the number of oils being produced or being sold that contain non-natural additives. And so now you're finding the additives are those that are found in an oil, either the synthetic version or oils or the compounds that come from other oils or fractions of those oils. So this is changing, but nevertheless it's still going on. I can remember one thing, and I got one story. I went, when I was doing some work on dillweed oil, I did a survey of the world production, and I found out that there was in fact 150% of dillweed oil being sold than it was actually being produced worldwide. So I went to the American Food and Drug. I was living in Canada at the time, and I went to the American Food and Drug, and I said, excuse me, you realize that about 50% of all the dillweed oil that's being sold isn't dillweed oil? And the answer was, well, how many people have died from it? And I said, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? And he said, that's our most important thing. So, unfortunately, even though Food and Drug knows it's going on, they're not going to do anything about it.
Thank you. Thank you, yes. Dr. DiCarlo, you've devoted your life now to maintaining the sustainability of frankincense, rightfully received a lot of recognition and fought a lot of battles on that. And doTERRA is selling a lot of frankincense. We're grateful for that. Why are you willing to work with doTERRA if we're selling so much of this precious oil?
Sure. Well, precisely because doTERRA is selling so much oil has put doTERRA in a position to be a part of making things sustainable. When I started doing my research, I wasn't intending to work with doTERRA, and I was approached after releasing some studies and reports, and that was a first, to have a company step forward and say, we want to be responsible for sustainability of our product and also fair trade with the communities. And that for me was an amazing moment. Yeah. So as a career environmentalist, it was a first. And so the partnership now working on this board for me is a great pleasure. And I do believe that we will achieve sustainability. The people of Somaliland and Somalia love their frankincense trees. They are living in poverty and adverse conditions that sometimes make it difficult to sustainably manage their assets. But doTERRA is committed to also helping diversify the economics in the supply chain so that the communities are not only relying on one tree species for their livelihood, and that will change things.
Thank you. Dr. Setzer and probably Dr. DiCarlo, maybe you all have a take on this. What the plight of frankincense is becoming well known. What are some other oils we should be concerned about that we really need to focus on sustainability in order to continue to have these forever? Dr. Lawrence.
One of the oils I think that one needs to pay attention to is, we saw it yesterday, copaiba balsam. Copaiba oil is a new oil. However, it is being produced by, as we saw, 4 copaiferous species. Unfortunately, all of those copaiferous species don't exactly have the same chemical composition. Plants don't like to duplicate each other. They like to... I'm a believer in plants take care of themselves and take care of their species. And so it's going to be important to be able to maintain the integrity of the origin of the copaiba balsam. Another oil is spikenard. Spikenard comes from a very small Valerianaceae plant that's found in the Himalaya region and Nepal and Bhutan. And there are also oils that are found, or there are other aromatic plants found in those areas that have some possibilities of being mixed up. Indian valerian is one of them, and that's an oil we need to pay attention to put some effort into making sure that all of the Nada stachys grandifolia, which is spikenard, is the origin of that particular oil and not a mixture between it and Valeriana jadamancii.
Excellent.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry I use all these botanical names, but I look at plants from a botanical standpoint. Just briefly, if you ever say the word oregano, there are over 90 plants grown worldwide that are called oregano. There's only one plant that's called oregano that produces the oil, and that's Origanum vulgare, subspecies hirtum, which is the one the doTERRA uses to produce its oregano.
we're getting a little short on time, and so I'd love with our scientists. I want to know a little bit of personal stuff. I want to know, you actually know the chemical composition of these oils like no one else. You know the plants. You know the local communities. So give me, we'll just start with Aaron and come down. Give me a couple of essential oils that you use the most and why.
Well, I've been working with Dr. DiCarlo on frankincense and doing a lot of research and helping with the testing. She's in the field gathering the samples there, and then Dr. Satyal and I can go back and do the distillation, working with, and actually doTERRA has been helping us with a lot too, the distillation there. Lauren does a great job with that, and so frankincense is one of my favorites and that I use all the time, but I also have a great love of sandalwood. I love the smell of it, and I think that it has a lot of calming effect, and it's just something that I'm drawn to and I can't get enough of.
This is a hard one because there's so many great oils. Well, of course, frankincense is one of my favorite oils, and I use it quite a bit. Lavender, of course. I'm from New York City. We always have to calm down a little bit. And myrrh is another oil that I use quite a bit of, as well as juniper and the firs. I love the firs. So.
Excellent. Dr. Setzer.
Besides the exotic stuff that I bring myself, I also like frankincense. I put it in my diffuser in my office and relax while I'm working on the computer.
Now, this is going to come as a shock. I'm not a user of essential oils. I like plants. The plants and I have an interrelationship. I'm more interested in the plant and how they produce it. I don't really particularly need to use that. That plant's my friend. I don't want to use it.
I'm an attorney, and they always say, don't ask a question that you don't know the answer to, and there we go.
I like Siberian fir, the recently launched oil. It has high bornyl acetate. It's like a cooling effect you can feel on that oil. It's coniferous oil. Yesterday, Dr. Hill also talked about that oil. It's a nice oil. That's my favorite oil.
Thank you, Dr. Satyal. Well, before we close, Aaron, this is obviously a brand new and exciting development that APRC has formed. Amazing scientists. doTERRA is honored to be able to support this group and the research and breakthroughs. How will the public, how will our friends here get to know what type of research you're doing, and remind us where they can go to start seeing some of the blogs and the interviews and the videos and other research advancements that we're going to start seeing out of this group?
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. And again, we're very appreciative of doTERRA's support in all this, and I feel like our end goals align so well that we're excited to continue this research, and we want everyone to be able to see it. And so you can go to our website, aromaticplant.org, as you mentioned there. But there's also, we have a Facebook page. If you look at Aromatic Plant RC and search that there, you'll be able to participate with us and educate yourself and those around you on what the research that we're doing, and be able to experience for yourself what we're working on. We're excited to be able to post frequently on that, and we want to be able to share with you everything that we're doing. It's not our intent to do this research and then keep it to ourselves. We want everyone to be able to experience this too, as I've mentioned before. So please visit our Facebook page and also aromaticplant.org, and we'll continue to do frequent updates, and we're excited for what the future holds.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So there it is right there, aromaticplant.org. There will be a lot more to come. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists.
So I live my life on you. I've been around the world and never in my wildest dreams would I come running home to you. Told a million lies, but now I tell a single truth. There's you in everything I do.
And now, please welcome back founding executive, Dr. David Hill.
Well, did you love the morning? Was it great? You know, I just have to say, I just want to say thank you to all of our partners who work with us, not only those who are here today, but those who were not here today. But I want to speak for just a moment to this panel that you just heard from. I know that there's a lot of information that we oftentimes hear where people will challenge the quality of doTERRA, they'll challenge the sustainability of what we do. At times they'll even challenge the methodology that we develop and we progress in within doTERRA. We're not like other companies. We never at any one moment in time said, let's start a company and be like everyone else. By design, we are different. And today, with that panel of experts, you got some more insight into how not just we're different, but we're profoundly different. I want to say for just a moment that I recognize that there is much good that's happening with essential oils that goes far beyond doTERRA's reach. And for that, every single one of us should be very thankful and should be very grateful. But it also should be abundantly clear at this point in time that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so let me say with every fiber of my being and very emphatically, doTERRA, without question, is not just the world leader in essential oils. We're the world leader in defining what quality is and what purity is, and in that we will never, ever deviate. You certainly will hear more from these wonderful individuals as we work with them very closely. They all intimated that, and we're grateful for our association with them. Now, we thought that this morning, a great way to end the morning would be to talk about more essential oils and do a little bit of essential oil education. So let's spend a little bit of time and let's talk about the basics of what we know about essential oils. And let me set the context for this. I want to get back to the basics. If you haven't noticed, if you haven't picked up on this yet, this convention is 100% about essential oils. That is who we are as a company, that is who we will remain as a company, and we're proud to do so. And so let's get back to the basics of what essential oils really are. Now, there are some things that we know about essential oils, and let me preface this just a little bit. First, let me tell you that the chemistry within essential oils is unique. It's dynamic. And in doTERRA, it's particularly dynamic because of the purity that we provide through those essential oils. In its most basic concept, natural pure compounds, like those found in essential oils, are notably different, especially in the biology and human physiology aspect of how they will be used and the benefits that they will provide. Let me also say that I recognize with great interest the fact that we work and within the compromise of our own knowledge and understanding. And I say compromise because we can't possibly understand everything about essential oils individually. But I also want you to feel encouraged and know, and frankly become immovable in what you know and have experienced in doTERRA, and trust your own experience. That is perhaps the most critical and the most validating process that you will participate in individually within the context of doTERRA and essential oils. That having been said, there are things that we know about essential oils, and you've heard me talk about this before. You've heard me say that essential oils are biologically active. You've heard me say that they're active at the surface of the cell and they have specific cell targets. And you've heard me say also that they're selective. Let's talk about what I mean by biological activity. Biological activity could probably be defined in two very distinct ways with essential oils. First, oils are biologically active because they work within the systems and the confines of your own physiology. That means that they have direct interaction with receptors and with enzymes, and that's a full part of the process of how and why essential oils create the benefits that we all love to experience and that we enjoy. Essential oils have specific cell targets for the exact same reason, in that they interact with those self-same receptors, and they interact with enzymes and other catalysts that drive physiology within the body. So the fact that essential oils work within that confine is perfectly acceptable and well known in the biology of essential oils and how they function within the body. Now, the other key point with that, and why we say essential oils are biologically active, is because it's reasonable to also assume, because of some of the chemistry that we see in the essential oils, that they work independent of the framework of your body. In other words, it comes under suspect as a phenolic compound like what we see, for example, in oregano. Does that need an enzymatic reaction to have its outcome intended for the surface of the cell? Can it destroy a microbe without any assistance from the body? The answer is yes. Believe that it can. And so we have two very basic and fundamental properties associated with the essential oils that feed into each one of these prospects. And then we also say that the oils are selective. By saying that the oils are selective, it's another way of saying that we have differentiated outcome. Essential oils are differentiated in at least two different ways in how they function within the body. However, the process of how they function remains largely the same. We're beginning to just now understand some of the pathway and some of the interaction of essential oils directly in the body. These are some of the these are some of the receptors that have been identified with essential oils. And there's multiples that we now understand. And if we understand how and what receptors are being interacted with, we have greater understanding of how and what that essential oil will actually produce in terms of an outcome. Now, the other side to that equation, when we say that essential oils are selective, I think it's a unique property of essential oils, and frankly not something we see anywhere else, is that an essential oil on the one hand can be self-sustaining and supportive of good, healthy cell function. But on the other hand, when we have cellular compromise, when we have something that has occurred to damage that cell, the body's own process of apoptosis can be stimulated by that self-same essential oil. And we have several oils that fit into that category. Frankincense fits into that category. Lemongrass fits into that category. The one that we all know and understand would be thyme and clove essential oils fitting into that category. Profound differences exist with the essential oils, and that's why we remain so committed to them. That's why we remain committed to the processes that we have in doTERRA. Here's three things that every single person in this room needs to know and understand about essential oils. It's okay to not understand and to not know all of the intricacies of why essential oils create the benefit that they do. But we do need to understand these three basic principles because it helps you to understand why oils create the benefits they do. First, oils are lipid soluble. Now, lipid soluble molecules in the body, compounds within the body, have some very specific outcomes associated with them. One, if an oil, in this case, is lipid soluble, what we're really saying is that it's easily penetrable through many different membranes or layers within the body. We know that there's barriers in the body. The cell membrane itself is a barrier. The blood-brain barrier is another barrier within the system. The skin is a barrier. We can easily penetrate through those barriers in the body because the essential oils are lipid soluble. When a lipid-soluble molecule, in this case essential oils, enter into the body, you need to understand that that means that that oil can, and many times does, become ubiquitous. It's not isolated to a thing in the body, or a tissue in the body, or a specific target. And in fact, because of the diversity of the chemistry we see, we can have multiples of targets. Lipid solubility is a key factor of essential oils, not to be in any way overshadowing of the fact that the molecular size and weight of an essential oil is equally important. Here's a way for you to understand why those two work hand in hand one with another. Lipid solubility means that I can penetrate easily through those tissue barriers and planes within the body. It's what gives essential oils that ubiquitous nature. Small molecular size and weight determines the efficiency of how readily it's able to do that. And so when we look at something like the blood-brain barrier, and you hear somebody say something like sesquiterpenes can cross through that barrier, it's not just an issue of solubility. And in fact, it's an issue of affinity and molecular size and weight that we can cross through those barriers. This means that we get full context of the essential oils. It means that it's reasonable for you to expect when you use an essential oil to have the outcomes that you're hoping for and that you're working for. It's not a mystery. I cannot tell you how many opportunities I've had to sit and visit with scientists and with professionals. In fact, I visited with somebody in my office just a week or two ago who very sternly said, let's be honest, this is all just placebo. Yeah, I know. I wanted to boo him too. It didn't seem like that was a very fair thing to say. However, at the end of our conversation, he freely admitted oils are powerful. And that yes, even though we cannot explain how and why they operate in their entire context, we do know that they do. And they do in a way that is different than any other type of chemistry that we see. It is different than pharmacology. It is different than other forms of natural health and approaches. It's unique to the essential oils themselves. And then we've already talked about cell signaling and how that interaction is profound, not just with the cell, but with entire body systems. And so we do have this ubiquitous nature. They are not all-knowing and all-powerful and mysterious. It's chemistry. And your body reacts and responds through chemistry. And so there's a summation of what that really means for you and I when we use essential oils. Essential oils provide benefits even when there's physiologic compromise. Now that is the context of why most of us would want to use an essential oil, but I want to share with you, don't be limited to that context. Don't be limited to the context that they're only value if and when I have some type of a circumstance that would demand that I use them. I alluded yesterday by saying that the greatest value of essential oils is when we learn how to use them on a daily basis. And when we learn to use them in a model of sustaining health, as well as learning to using them in a model of supporting and recovery in that process. Now, let me share with you, everything in the body is directed through chemistry. You know that. Even your emotions that Dr. Szabo spoke with you about, it's all chemistry within your body. That means if we can influence chemistry, then we can create change in chemistry. If we can create change in chemistry, then we can change and even determine outcomes of our own health and physiology. So let me take a few minutes and let me talk with you about the basics of chemistry. So we're going to go into Organic Chemistry 101. So it's unfortunate we're late in the morning, but get out your pens and get out your pencils and let me break this down for you in a way that it begins to make sense. Not so it's some mysterious thing, but you can begin to utilize what you know and expand your opportunity with the essential oils. So let me first talk with you very quickly about hydrocarbons. Now, all essential oils have hydrocarbons, all of them. And the hydrocarbon is just a hydrogen and a carbon atom, and we have multiples of those that are present within the essential oils. And that makes good sense. If you learn to think about essential oils as having this backbone of carbon, this makes sense because what does carbon do? First off, it's non-reactive and it's non-toxic. Secondly, it's very accommodating in the body and it stimulates a lot of really good, healthy processes. It helps to eliminate toxicity. It can absorb microbes. It can do a number of different things in this sustainable approach of what we would want to do on a regular basis with our own health and wellness. And so hydrocarbons is a key and a critical component. Now there's different types of hydrocarbons. One type of hydrocarbon, and you've heard of these before, is a monoterpene. Now a monoterpene is two 5-carbon chains that are hooked together. And it doesn't really matter. I don't care that you know that there's 10 carbon atoms now that are associated with this carbon chain, as much as it is the outcome that's associated with that. Now remember, monoterpenes are the smallest of the terpenes that we see in essential oils. And so what do monoterpenes do? Keeping in mind, we talked already about lipid solubility, and we talked about molecular size and weight. And one of the things that we said was molecular size and weight determines the efficiency and how fluid those molecules can be through the body, how readily accessible they are. And so here's a list of essential oils that have high amounts of monoterpenes. All essential oils have monoterpenes. Some have very little. Some are mainly monoterpenes, like in the case of grapefruit. Here's how I want you to think of monoterpenes. Monoterpenes are metabolized quickly, and they're highly volatile. Now, in a therapeutic sense, I look at that and I say, that means I have great opportunity for repetitive usage with monoterpenes. Now, I understand that there's always going to be exceptions to some of the things that we talk about, so grab a hold of the principle. Understand the principle that we're introducing to you, which is monoterpenes. Oils with monoterpenes are fast-acting and they're highly volatile. And as you look at some of the oils that we see listed here, that makes perfect sense. One of the reasons why frankincense, I would tell you, is an essential oil that I would recommend for consistent use is because of its availability within the body and because of the broad spectrum of activity that we generally see, the benefits that we can receive from it. To know that that's fast-acting is a good thing. Now, we also have another class of terpenoids, terpenes, and in this case, it's sesquiterpenes. And sesquiterpenes is a little bit larger. There's 15 carbon atoms, 3 5-carbon chains that have been linked together. And sesquiterpenes, although they have some similarities with monoterpenes because they're both carbon-based, so the main difference here is just the size of the chain that we're dealing with. So in this case, size matters, and part of the reason why it matters is because the longer the chain, the slower it is to metabolize. Now, we have things that go beyond sesquiterpenes, diterpenes, for example. Diterpenes are 20 carbon atoms, so 4 carbon chains that have been hooked or linked together. And diterpenes don't exist very much in any of the oils that we offer. There is a couple, rose and jasmine. Did you like those yesterday, by the way? They're one of the few oils that have diterpenes associated with them. And there's other terpenes that go beyond that, but we generally don't see them in any of the essential oils that we would ever use. So let's talk about oils that have high amounts of sesquiterpenes. They're focused and they're concentrated, different molecules doing different things, but sesquiterpenes. Cedarwood ranks right at the top. Here's the principle. Here's what I want you to gather from this, and this will make sense for you in a few moments of why I want you to hold on to the principle of not, oh, a sesquiterpene is 20 or 15 carbon atoms, or that a sesquiterpene is found in these oils specifically, as much as it is sesquiterpenes have a higher metabolic potential, and they are longer lasting in the body. So we have a longer outcome. Now, both monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes, let's talk about what I mean by metabolic potential. Metabolic potential is the ability of not just the initial activity or function of an essential oil that we've introduced into the body. We also have the ability to have secondary and even tertiary metabolites that are formed. So linalool is a good example as a monoterpene, a monoterpenoid alcohol. It's a good example that we begin with linalool, but then we progress and we have other metabolites that begin to develop as it's metabolized in the body. So we can have long-lasting effects, but the longer that carbon chain, the more complex that carbon chain is, the more chemistry that's available, the more potential there is for greater aspects of outcomes in the body. More potential for secondary and tertiary metabolites, slower to metabolize, longer lasting. That's why we like sesquiterpenes. Now, if we progress just a little bit, stay with me for a few minutes here, let's talk about what I would call a functional group. Now, there's a lot of functional groups, and I'm only going to identify some of them associated with the essential oils because it's those that are most prevalent and readily available within the essential oils. This is where you take a backbone, a carbon backbone, either a sesquiterpene or a monoterpene, whichever terpene it is, and you add another compound to it. In this case, it would be an alcohol, and this is a good representation of what linalool would be, a monoterpene with an alcohol attached to it, and now it becomes a terpenoid structure. And the advantage that we have when we add additional chemistry, like we see in essential oils, is that we have the addition of multiple of benefits. So here's all of the oils that are very high in terpenes and the alcohol functional group. So sandalwood, right at the top of the list, I know that there's good amounts of sesquiterpenes, but now I also know that there's good amounts of sesquiterpene alcohols associated with that essential oil. And all alcohols primarily have similar function and activity. They're very calming. You know, we're going to say that about every single functional group we talk about. We're going to say they're calming, they're soothing, they're relaxing. That's one of the great mantras associated with essential oils. But in this case, they do a little bit more. They're calming to the tissues in that they help the tissues, especially if there's agitation within those tissues, to be relaxed and soothed. They have great cleansing properties. All oils that contain alcohols have great cleansing properties, both internally and externally. Great products that we can use on the skin, for example, for cleansing and purifying the skin. That's why when we talk about things like an active threat that's occurring within the body, or we have some type of an abrasion or a bug bite, generally some of the oils we recommend, like lavender, have a good amount of alcohols associated with them. They're uplifting and they're good for protecting and preserving good immune response within the body. Now, phenols is somewhat similar to an alcohol. It's an alcohol attached to a benzene ring, but phenols have a much stronger capability than what we typically see with an alcohol. You're familiar with the essential oils that we have that have phenols associated with them: oregano, thyme, and clove essential oil. Respectively, the phenols are strongly protective within the body. They have good antioxidant function, which means they can protect and help the body preserve the natural activity and function of your cells. But they also bring relief because of that context of the warming sensation that we feel. And even in the case of oregano, we talked about yesterday, beta-caryophyllene, we're saying that that has direct interaction with a CB2 receptor site. And so that then can be calming and soothing to tissues like within our joints or within our muscles. And once again, immune supporting to the body. We have another functional group that's called aldehydes. And aldehydes are important for a number of different reasons. Alcohols, phenols, and aldehydes nicely fit into the same category. And think of them as all things protective in the body. If we want to enhance our immune capability, think about an alcohol, a phenol, or an aldehyde. Now, it's good for environmental threats. It's really good. Aldehydes are really strong for circulatory support. I think a lot of times when I speak with people, and I'm very appreciative of that, by the way, but a lot of times when I speak with people and they ask me very direct questions, I know that they think there's just a ton of information rattling around in my mind. I hear people say sometimes, wouldn't you like to take Dr. Hill home and put him in your pocket? That might not be as good of an experience as what you think. Do you want to know how I cycle through when you speak to me and when you ask me questions? Yes, I do. I have decades of clinical experience, and I'm indeed very grateful for that. It drives so much of what I believe and what I feel about essential oils, but the process that I actually go through is not as detailed or as beyond what you think you yourself could personally do. I think through circumstance of how does a phenol work? What other classes of compounds fit into that. Aldehydes would also be a good option. And depending on what you're looking at and the variabilities between some of them, committing some of this basic and simple information that yes, while an aldehyde and an alcohol and a phenol all fit into this same category of being sustaining to the body and its immune capability, isn't it interesting that alcohols are very soothing and very calming to the body and very cleansing to the body? Isn't it neat that when we look at phenols, phenols are very directed and very targeted and very focused in the body in being protective? And isn't it interesting that when we look at aldehydes that we have some of the same thing, but it's a much broader spectrum, and we can be supportive of additional systems like cardiovascular or the digestive system. But yes, once again, working within the immune capability of the body. This is why I like the chemistry. This is why I feel like if you just commit some basic things to memory and learn more about the chemistry, you yourself can overcome a number of obstacles. One of the biggest obstacles that we have is that we always feel like we know exactly what to do, and if it doesn't work, we abandon the process. Learning how to categorize essential oils gives you the option of having multiple oils you can choose from, and I'll teach you how to do that in just a minute. This is just a short thing I wanted to put together for you. This is some of the things that over the years I have liked to use for each one of the things to create proper joint function and comfort. 2 drops of oregano, 2 drops of lemongrass. Now I would dilute that, and I would dilute that so that it can hold directly into the tissues that we would talk about. I love using frankincense. You've heard me say it a million times, when in doubt, get your frankincense out. You can really put frankincense with almost anything, and it will enhance the processes for you and make them much better. But in this case, using frankincense, marjoram, and wintergreen is a good option for you, or even clove and frankincense. And I, a lot of times, will use that as a mouth preparation for individuals. So just some simple ways that you can take some of the information we just talked about and use them very specifically. Let's talk just about a couple of more functional groups. Let's talk about ketones. Now, once again, calming and soothing, but in this case, specifically with the tissues, the skin of the body. Ketones are really good for skin health, but they're also very supportive of the deeper layers of the tissues of the body, and so think of them as having a global aspect that way. A lot of times you'll see oils like peppermint mixed in with different preparations that are meant to be for the skin, and because it's soothing and it does stimulate proper activity and function there. Now, really good for respiratory conditions as well. You can take and you can look at something like an aldehyde and combine it with a ketone, and you would have an excellent opportunity for good respiratory support. So you can maybe take even a phenol, maybe it's thyme oil and peppermint, or clove and peppermint, or maybe it's going to be rosemary mixed with one of those essential oils, and you can have very profound outcomes associated with that. Also really good for digestive issues we see with ketones. Now I want to talk a little bit about esters. Esters happens to be one of my favorite categories, and generally because some of the oils that we see within this category are profoundly esters, and esters only. So birch and wintergreen, for example, almost 98, 99% pure methyl salicylate. That means that we have very focused. Remember last year we talked a little bit about chemical diversity, but then we also talked about having very focused outcomes where we don't have as much diversity within an essential oil. And I like the esters because our top 3 essential oils in this category, birch, wintergreen, and the oil that we talked about yesterday, Roman chamomile, all have high amounts of esters available within them. Esters, think of all things relaxing and soothing in the body. A lot of times we experience either through heavy physical activity, even through that time of the month for our ladies who are here, we can have a lot of muscle cramping and spasm, and we can have a lot of outcomes that are part of the normal process, but can be very uncomfortable and unpleasant. And one of the things that I like about esters is that as you apply the essential oils topically, there is this great soothing benefit and relief that can come from it. So feel free to use those in any of that capacity and context. So the last one I'm going to share with you is oxides. Now, oxides, these are essential oils. Just think all things respiratory for oxides. But again, just like we saw with the aldehydes, and we saw with the phenols, and we saw with the alcohols, very cleansing to the environment. Mixing one of these essential oils, for example, with a citrus oil, gives you a beautiful aroma, but it becomes very powerful and really clarifying for the respiratory system. That's its primary benefit that we typically see. Now, why would I take some time and explain this context to you? About 3 years ago, I was in my office working one day, and I was, to be honest with you, a little bit frustrated because I was trying to, at the time, teach a class that I called A to Z, which is an 8-hour class where I do my best to start with the A's and end up in the Z's of the essential oils. But in reality, I usually kind of go from A to B-ish, if we're lucky, in 8 hours. And so I was a little bit frustrated because I wanted individuals to begin to be able to expand their capacity. And so at that time, we developed what we would call the oil chemistry wheel. Now, I know you're familiar with this. Now, I want you to take everything that I just shared with you, and I want you now to look at this wheel and think of it a little bit differently. I think this was ingenious. What we did was I pulled my staff together, and they're miracle workers, by the way. I give them full credit for helping us to bring this together. On the one side, you have monoterpenes. The backbone is monoterpenes. Every single oil that's listed there is a monoterpene, and some of them are monoterpenoids. On the back side of that, as you see listed here, we have sesquiterpenes. Every oil listed there is a sesquiterpene essential oil, and it has its functional group attached or associated with it. So let me walk you through how you would use this chart and then bring it to a conclusion. So here's a good example. This is patchouli essential oil. And you can see, you can look here that patchouli, I know that it's a sesquiterpene that's been identified there in the back. And what do I know about sesquiterpenes? Oh, I know sesquiterpenes have great metabolic potential, so I can have multiples of effects associated from sesquiterpenes. I learned that at convention. And I also know that they're long-lasting. And so I can have long penetrating effects associated from any of the oils I see on the sesquiterpene side of the chart. Now, if I look at it, I can see ketones and alcohols, and that they're all right there and they're listed for you. And I can look at that and I can see that, well, patchouli is in the alcohol category, which is the ring next to sesquiterpenes, and then patchouli. And then I can see what it possibly does for me. And I can look that it's very stabilizing to the body, but I know that it's an alcohol. And what do I know about alcohols? I know that alcohols are soothing to the body. I know they're clarifying to the body. And I know that they're cleansing to the body. It's what we just discussed and learned. Now, you might look at that and say, well, that's really great. I mean, I got patchouli all in there as the alcohol, and I see that it's patchouli oil. But what does that mean? Why is this chart functional? Because it's now not just patchouli that you can use. What if I use patchouli and that is not exactly what I'm looking for? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other essential oils, all in that same category, that now I can choose from. And I believe that every single one of them may not have the exact outcome, but they will have similar qualities and characteristics, and it may be just exactly what I need. We can do the same thing with monoterpenes. Here's a good example. We see monoterpenes. We know that monoterpenes, in this case, phenols and aldehydes, we see are protecting, and I can see that just by following the ring from the inside all the way to the outside. And I can look at oregano, and I see that oregano has high amounts of carvacrol. I go to the next ring, I know that that's a phenol, and it's protective to the body. But it's not just oregano. If I use oregano and it doesn't work, it's not just thyme or clove. I can go to thyme, clove, cilantro, cumin, cassia, cinnamon, and I can work my way through that whole ring, and all of a sudden I have a lot of oils I can choose from. How often do you speak with somebody and they say, oh, I don't like that oil? or that's not my favorite, or I won't use that, or I can't use that. And how often do you have the experience where you feel lost? I don't know what else to tell you because that's what works for me. You have access to be able to exercise your knowledge about chemistry with little effort. Now, where do you find this? This is available for all of you. You can just go to the doTERRA page, you go to the science blog, and it's right there, and it's downloadable, and it's right there for you. How would you like it if we created a little booklet, and in that booklet had all of the description of the chemistry that we just went through, as well as this wheel? Would you like that? Now, just last week, I met with some of the members who work with me on my team, and they're already in process with that. So look for that to come very quickly, and that'll be something that will be a great tool for you so that you can improve and increase your arsenal. Now, in the time I have left, let me go through another process with you really quickly. I thought this was genius when we introduced this a number of years ago. That originally, at the top of that, under healthcare, that didn't say doTERRA Healthcare. That said something different, but we're changing the pyramid. It now says doTERRA Healthcare. And then we have this model of self-care, and that's where we operate. We operate within that realm, and we're combining both of those, and that should just now, from this point ever forward, just say healthcare and know that it's not a separate thing. That having been said, it's the bottom of the pyramid, and let me walk you through on a daily basis what it is that we would do to take advantage of each of those steps. We created it that way. This was the genius of Rob Young. It was created that way to kind of guide you to that process of what we do to manage our health in the most efficient way that we possibly can. And you know that in doTERRA, we've never said that that's exclusive of modern healthcare and medicine. We're looking for a blending of those two, but you can enhance the process if you understand the process on a daily basis. So let's start at the bottom and work our way to the top real quickly. So let me begin with eating right. Now, to me, this is pretty straightforward. Yes, we should improve our diet, but I'm going to talk about daily nutrition instead. Now, I'm not going to talk about the lifelong vitality, because tomorrow, I believe, you're going to have the good privilege of hearing from Dr. Leverins, who is going to talk with you a lot about lifelong vitality. So know that there's some good information coming on that. So instead, let me focus on PB Assist and Terrazyme just real quickly. Now, first off, you need PB Assist. The criticism of, even though I see it on TV advertised all the time, if you just eat this yogurt, you're going to be happy and your wildest dreams will come true. The real challenge that's associated when we start talking about intestinal flora and when we start talking about taking a probiotic is delivery. One of the unique things about this product is we've solved the issue of delivery. We not only deliver to you all of those CFUs intact, all of that good biotica intact, we deliver it to you in multiples of fashions, including a prebiotic, so you get good, strong colonization. You need to understand that the area of your body that becomes damaged most readily, and it's because of the toxicity that we face and because of the poor diet that most of us have, is going to be our intestinal flora. It's more than just a barrier for you. There's now this wonderful research that's actually linking your gut and your brain together, and your gut and cardiovascular health. It's a foundational aspect of what it means to be happy and healthy, and you need to be sure that you do a probiotic every single day. Now, I wish I had time to go into great detail on all of these products. I don't. So let me move on just a little bit and remind you that it's not just for you. It's for the entire family. Now, equally, we would look at this and we would talk about enzymes. Let me just tell you real quickly the importance of enzymes and why we have Terrazyme. Everything that happens in your body, we identified a few minutes ago and said it's chemically driven. It's chemically induced within your body. But understand how that happens. It's not just interacting with a receptor site, it's interacting with enzymes as well. Vitamins and minerals are essential for your body to have good models of metabolism and end derivatives associated with that. What drives vitamin and mineral activity in your body is enzyme activity. And ironically, what drives enzyme activity in your body is vitamin and mineral activity. You need both. You don't just need lifelong vitality, you need lifelong vitality, and you also need Terrazyme. Now, Terrazyme is food enzymes. It's not metabolic enzymes. You need to drive metabolic enzymes, but because you cannot take them, your body has to produce them. One of the ways that we entice the body or give the body the freedom to be able to produce the amount of metabolic enzymes it needs is to ensure that you have enough digestive enzymes. Your cells can produce largely one or the other with efficiency. So I'm either going to produce digestive enzymes or I'm going to produce metabolic enzymes. Many times individuals will come to me and say, I'm doing these things, but I'm just not receiving a benefit. And without fail, I ask the question, do you do the Terrazyme? And the answer is always no. And you need to, because you take the metabolic pressure off the body when you do. And the cells are free to produce those metabolic enzymes which drive all other processes in concert with vitamins and minerals. So make it a habit to do that every single day. That's what we mean by eating right. Now let's talk about exercise. I'm not going to talk a lot about exercise. Well, I am just a minute. Well, no, I am. I can't help it. I've lost 30 pounds. And it's not because I have a man girdle on either. That's not why. This has been a great journey for me. I started at the beginning of the year. I am a horrible person for exercise, but I have found enjoyment in not going to Justin Harrison's house at 5 o'clock in the morning and have him punish me, which he invites me to do incessantly. I'm not coming, Justin. Stop asking. But what I do enjoy is things that elevate my heart rate. So riding bikes with my wife has turned out to be a really fun thing for me. Or going for walks or going for hikes. Exercise can be defined as anything that will increase your heart rate and your body's ability for metabolism. Learn how to do some forms of exercise. And then I put Deep Blue here because, frankly, we should start thinking about the essential oils not just after the fact, but maybe using them beforehand. And so let me give you just a quick insight into Deep Blue and why I say that. If we look at Deep Blue, and if we look at how it's been broken down, there's really three primary categories of function within Deep Blue. First, wintergreen, camphor, and peppermint. We like them because they're cooling to the tissues, but we like them also because they're very soothing. They're very comforting to the tissues. It's amazing how comfortable I am with the word comforting to the tissues. Blue tansy and blue chamomile, we talked about those yesterday. We talked about creating a normal, sustainable, appropriate inflammatory response in the body, and we had a lot of discussion yesterday about how blue tansy would help us to do that. And blue tansy and blue chamomile together makes that the perfect combination. And then lastly, for recovery and long-term support, we have helichrysum, which you all love as an essential oil, and osmanthus, which many of you aren't that familiar with, but here once again is a flower oil. And so very powerful combination. Now I thought I would take that and build on this just a little bit because our purpose here is to expand the process. And building on this, I would say that there are categories of essential oils that do this for you as a whole. So oils that fit into the wood category. Now I didn't just say resin oils, I said wood category. So an oil, whether it comes from a resin or it comes from the wood product itself, would fit into that category. Mint oils and spice oils, and I broke it down into warming, numbing, cooling, support for inflammatory responses in the body, and tissue recovery. And I've kind of highlighted where each one of those lie within that process. And once again, you've just expanded your repertoire where if you're trying to help yourself or someone you know, you have this ability now to choose from entire categories of essential oils and not be limited to just what you know or just what you're comfortable with. So I thought that would be interesting for you to see. Rest is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot to talk about with rest except for I define rest differently than how you might define it. You might define rest to mean, am I sleeping well at night? And that indeed is a part of what we mean by rest within that platform. But rest is resting your body in its full measure. That means I'm taking and reducing metabolic stress and metabolic load on my body. That means I'm controlling my emotions and the responses that I have when things feel very charged for me, or I'm upset, or I have feelings of anger and frustration. Those all have physical and chemical consequence in the body. And we need to learn how to control those, and we need to learn how to support the body in its ability to be able to function even under those circumstances of duress. So I've given you a big list here. Choose your favorite. Use them every single day in this capacity. My personal favorite, I will share with you, is going to be balance. Now I've broken balance down into two categories for you here again. Now we have wood oils, wood and resin oils, and then we have floral oils. You're kind of getting the idea of why we call this balance. It's a good balance between the chemistry, all of which collectively is going to be soothing, relaxing, but it is balancing to the body. It supports the central nervous system. It supports the emotional context of the body so that we have good, appropriate responses that are manageable as we go throughout the day. And then, of course, we do have for you the Serenity Complex, which we introduced last year. I hope you're loving that. I hope you're enjoying that, because it is effective and it works. Now, best to use this, I think our directions would be that you take 2 capsules 30 minutes before you go to sleep. But I would add, learn to diffuse essential oils throughout the evening that are calming, soothing, and relaxing. Now, lastly, let me talk with you real quickly about toxicity. Just think lemon oils when it comes to toxicity. On a daily basis, we need to do lemon oils, or citrus oils, citrus oils. Now, part of the reason why, if we looked at the immune system, and we looked at all the functioning of the immune system, we would say that one of the limiting factors of the body's immune capability is the level of glutathione that we have present. Glutathione is critical because it supports not just the immune capability of the body, but it also supports all of the systems and organs that are responsible for cleansing in the body, like the liver, for example. Even the central nervous system has high susceptibility to damage if we don't have mechanisms in place for protection. Glutathione is a substantial part of the body's ability to do that. One of the things that we know about limonene, this monoterpene that's in essential oils, in specifically high amounts in the citrus oils, is that it is protective and helpful in those sequences for the body to be able to be sustained that way. Now, the last one is self-care. I'm going to move quickly. I'm out of time. I'm going to move very quickly. Frankincense and On Guard. Do you not just love frankincense in its entirety? I love everything about frankincense. Now, these are all the things that we're accustomed to with frankincense, but there's new and emerging research all of the time. And this, the first time I saw research that was similar to this was about 10 years ago. Not too long ago, I saw some additional research that was published about frankincense, and they made a very interesting statement in that research. And this statement alone, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why it's foundational to what we do on a daily basis. Listen to what they said. When the DNA code within a cell, within the cell's nucleus is altered, it seems frankincense supports the cell's ability to identify and determine what the right DNA code should be. Is that not remarkable? Go back to how we started today. Oils are biologically active. We know that oils are selective, and we know that oils have specific cell targets. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit just quickly about some of those compounds that we talked about earlier, the aldehydes, the alcohols, and the phenols. It's interesting, phenolics destroy membranes. So if there's a microbe that's under attack from a phenolic, it just literally punches a hole in the membrane and destroys whatever that organism is. Alcohols support immune cell function, and aldehydes inhibit communication, which is also an active part of how your body's defenses normally work. If I can block communication from one cell to another, then I greatly reduce the ability of that to perpetuate throughout my body and be damaging. So why On Guard? I know you heard a little bit about On Guard earlier, but look at what we have. We have monoterpenes, we have phenols, we have aldehydes, and we have alcohols. So if we were to sum it up, we would say this is what we're going to do every single day. Every day I'm going to use Lifelong Vitality, I'm going to use the Terrazyme, and I'm going to use the PB Assist. When I exercise, and I am going to start exercising, and if I do that, I'm going to use an oil like Deep Blue to help me be able to do that with greater ease. Rest and stress, we determined, we said, was not just about getting the proper amount of sleep, although we have the Serenity lineup for you that will help you to accomplish that very efficiently, but balance is an essential oil that you need to use every day. And then, of course, we talked about citrus, frankincense, and On Guard. Now, I know my time is limited, so bear with me for just one more moment. Nobody ever knows how to do it. So here's what you're going to do every single day, okay? We're going to get up in the morning. We're going to get up in the morning, and you're going to put 2 to 3 drops on the bottom of your feet with balanced essential oil. You're going to put a couple of drops of frankincense under your tongue, or put it in your water, or take it in a capsule. You can put it on the bottom of your feet, but use frankincense every single morning. Take 1 PB Assist with breakfast, and then Lifelong Vitality and Terrazyme with your morning meal. Afternoon, we're going to diffuse our favorite essential oil for mood management, for helping the body to be at rest. During the day, I'm going to diffuse whatever oil it is that I would like. I'm going to again take Lifelong Vitality and Terrazyme with my afternoon meal, and then I'm going to use citrus oil in my water throughout the day, or take citrus oil in a capsule if you would like to, but gain exposure of citrus oil throughout the day. In the evening, when I come home, I'm going to take Lifelong Vitality and Terrazyme again. And I'm going to diffuse On Guard or take a capsule if I feel like I need that sustainability and some type of an immune capability for the body. Now let me make a point here as I go to this last slide, which is at bedtime. Diffuse your favorite oil for relaxation. Use the Serenity Soft Gel 30 minutes before sleep. And then apply Serenity or cedarwood, if you like, to the bottom of your feet for a complete, full, and restful night's sleep. Sleep is when the body repairs itself. It's important that you have good sleep. It could not be any simpler to use the essential oils in that capacity. If you do nothing else from this conference, from this convention, take away that piece of information. If you're struggling with the use of the essential oils, I'm going to tell you it's most likely because you don't have consistency and a framework or a foundation to work from. Now, sometimes people say, Dr. Hill, that's just too much. I cannot do that. I'm sorry. Because the alternative is not a good one. And like it or not, we're all going to be limited to our own biological terrain. Laura will love that comment. We're all going to be limited to our own biological terrain, which means we must do things every single day. And yes, while it's hard to sit down at an afternoon meal and get out your pills, and I got to take Lifelong Vitality, and I got to take Terrazyme because Dr. Hill told me to, trust me, it's much better than the alternative, which is pulling out a handful of other pills. Now, my time is really far gone and I need to be done, but let me introduce to you in closing, we have 2 brand new members on our physicians board this year, and I would like to take just a moment and introduce them to you appropriately. This is Dr. Andrew Goff. Now, I love Andrew. I've found him to be a fascinating individual. He grew up in England, and he's currently practicing as a emergency room physician. In the community where he lives, he's known as the essential oil doctor. Everybody loves coming to him for his skill set. What you're going to find, and you will have a chance to hear from him this afternoon on our physicians panel, and what you're going to hear from Dr. Goff and learn from him very quickly is that he is a deeply passionate individual, not just about essential oils, but about patient care. And his wife Ruth is the same way. They're lovely people, and many of you know them, and it's a privilege for us to welcome them to our physicians board here at doTERRA. And then I'm happy to introduce Dr. Amy Wolfoff. Now, Dr. Amy I met her about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago in Dallas, Texas, and we were able to start into multiples of conversations. She is a wonderful addition to what we're doing here at doTERRA. She's a board-certified dermatologist. If you look down at the bottom of her, it's interesting when you look at where she went to school, right? Did all of her graduate work and everything in Texas, and she's been very recognized that. But look at the bottom paragraph, and she's one of the top 3 rated dermatologists in Texas. She's Texas Super Doctors, Texas Rising Star, 2014 to 2017, top doctor in 2015, most compassionate doctor in 2013 through 2017. It just kind of goes on and on and on. And then at the bottom it says doTERRA Clinical Advisory Board. We're happy to have her be a part of that. But I think it's also going to say, and best looking physician on that panel. I think that's also what it's going to say. So we're happy to have them be a part of what we're doing. Let me just share with you one final thought before I end today, and it's a little bit thought-provoking for myself. As for many years now, I've had the great privilege of being involved in patient care. Yesterday, Dr. Riggs talked about the value of that. He is correct in every sense of the word. I have had cause to reflect quite often on, as you become a physician, you take what's known as the Hippocratic Oath, and there are lots of iterations of the Hippocratic Oath, all with the same general context and meaning. And I'd like to quote for you a condensed version today. And it goes something like this. I will remember that there is an art to medicine as well as a science. I will remember that warmth, compassion, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will remember that I do not treat a fever or chart a cancerous growth, but an individual whose family may be affected by the person's illness. I will work for prevention because prevention is preferable to cure. And if I do not violate this oath, may I enjoy life and art respected while I live and remembered affectionately thereafter. May I long experience the joy that comes from healing those who seek my help. My friends, if that's not a perfect descriptor of you, I don't know what is. You have a great mission to do. You have a great work to do. Let's do it together. Thank you.
We belong to something. We belong to something. We belong to
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attendance this morning. We'll see you back here this afternoon at 2 p.m.